The meeting will come to order. Welcome to our December Board of Trustees Committee of the Whole meeting. It's great to see everyone present. Our first matter of business is approval of the consent calendar. We have a recommended motion from the administration. Do I have a maker of the motion?
Motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Ms. Leventis Wells has made a motion. Do I have a second? We have a second from Ms. Goodwin Caldwell. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The motion carries. Our second matter of business is appearance of visitors, and we have no speakers today. Our third matter of business is instruction. Mr. Sailors will be chairing this section. Mr. Sailors, you have the floor at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Sailors. At this time, I'll turn this over to Dr. Stevens and Mrs. Holt-Pilkey. It's been a while since we have given an overview of pre-K programs. They have obviously a tremendous impact on our students, particularly our students who may not arrive to start kindergarten possessing all the skills that some of our other students have. So it is one of the most important and most effective levers that we have to increase student achievement. And you'll see in this presentation the sort of a description of not only the programs, but their location of those programs, how many students we're serving, and how many students we're serving in comparison to the total number of students we would have in any particular grade in any one year. And you'll also, although you have heard this before, you will see again a reminder that the state funding to support four-year-old programs is extremely limited in the number of programs it would provide compared to the number of ones we offer. So this body has made a significant investment in pre-K with general fund dollars as well as direction of Title I dollars to allow us to be serving, I believe, about 2,100 students in 4K programs throughout the district, whereas the state allocation might support about 20 classrooms. So at this time, I'll turn it over to the two of them. Dr. Stevens.
Thank you, Dr. Royster. Of specific interest, we have also included information in this presentation specific to our 3K special education programming for preschool special education students that then funnel into our 4K programming. So this, I believe, will be one of the first times before this board that we have been able to present that entire continuum of services. And so Ms. Holt-Pilkey will do a very thorough job of sharing that information with you.
Are Building a Better Graduate, beginning in pre-K. In our early childhood programs, we believe in building strong beginnings and strengthening the path forward. Our early childhood classrooms are our children's and many times our parents' first touch point with Greenville County Schools, and we take that responsibility very seriously. We are setting the tone for trust. We are setting a tone for belonging and ultimately for joyful learning. We are laying a strong foundation for lifelong learning. Pre-K builds early readiness and confidence through the Greenville County Schools G+ Skills Framework. And our students are developing early readiness and confidence, the mindsets and the competencies that are needed, such as persistence, collaboration, problem solving, that all help to support future academic success. We intentionally align our early childhood practices with expectations along the K through 12 curriculum and continuum. This alignment helps us to strengthen rigor, to deepen skill development for students, and to ensure that our students are well prepared for the transitions ahead. In pre-K, we know that we are responsible for setting students up for success from day one. Strong early learning experiences are not separate from the pre-K-12 system. They are simply the beginning of it. Our goal is for every child entering kindergarten to arrive as curious, capable, and ready to thrive. In accordance with state law and Greenville County Schools Board Policy JBB, students may attend our 4K program if they attain the age of 4 by September 1st of the school year, which they will begin enrollment. Available spaces are offered to students based on rank order of our 4K eligibility risk factors. We make efforts to place our students who meet those eligibility criteria for 4K in classrooms as close to their home-based school as possible. Our 4K eligibility risk factors include both child factors and family risk factors. A few of those you see on the screen. Those child risk factors can include pre-academic and developmental needs, homelessness or foster care placement, and children receiving special education services. Family risk factors include such things as low family income based on Medicaid eligibility, low parent education level, parents who may be teens, and then parents who may be single, deployed, deceased, or incarcerated. Our goal of serving students with these risk factors ensures that our students who may be the least prepared are better prepared as they begin their educational journey with us. Here you see information regarding our 4K application process. Our 4K application window for the 26-27 school year is currently open and will remain open until January 30th of 2026. Parents and guardians can apply for our 4K programs by creating a backpack account, or they can bring a paper application to their child's home-based school. We definitely do not want lack of access to technology to be a barrier for our families to apply to our 4K programs. Applications that are submitted after January 30th of 2026 will automatically be placed on the wait list, and notifications of acceptance actually begin March 1st of 2026, and those are based in rank order of those risk factors that I shared with you just a few moments ago. However, in 4K, our acceptance and placements are made on an ongoing rolling basis throughout the year based on space available in classrooms as well as a child's risk factors. As we look to see our current enrollment, the data on this slide reflects all of our early childhood programs, to include our preschool classrooms for students with disabilities, which serve both 3K and 4K students, as well as our 4K classrooms. You'll note here that our 3K programs are solely for students with disabilities, while our 4K programs serve students who are both general education students as well as students with disabilities. So you see those current enrollment numbers as of December 1st in 3K and 4K. We have a commitment to providing high-quality early childhood education to as many students as possible. And so for the 25-26 school year, you see that we have a total of 81 general education 4K classrooms and 30 preschool special education classrooms that serve both 3K and 4K students. So combined, we currently operate a total of 111 classrooms across our elementary schools as well as our child development centers. We have 49 classrooms currently in our child development centers and 62 classrooms in our elementary schools. So again, going back to that commitment of trying to ensure that we can serve students in locations that are as close as possible to their home-based school. These are actually the locations for our 25-26 programs. And as you can see here, we house early childhood programs all across Greenville County Schools for a total of 41 locations. This reflects, again, our efforts to provide those services as close as possible to a student's home-based school. In the year of 24-25, we were able to join 2 of our child development centers with their adjacent elementary schools. So Golden Strip CDC with Bryson Elementary and Riley CDC with Ellen Woodside Elementary. On this slide, Mr. McCain, the principal of Ellen Woodside, really eloquently captures some of those benefits of joining the Riley CDC with Ellen Woodside to create that cohesive pre-K through 5 environment. He highlights things such as strengthening relationships with families, being able to build that sense of collaboration and ensure that students begin their journey, I love this part, with joy and confidence. I've shared the importance that we feel about strengthening our early learning programs through home-based pre-K access. For the 25-26 school year, a little more than half of our currently enrolled 4K students attend their home-based school. This reflects for us a significant shift toward offering those early childhood opportunities within the same school communities that students will attend in kindergarten and beyond. As Mr. McCain reflected in his experience in that previous slide, we see multiple benefits to this. Those benefits include things such as expanding home-based access, strengthening that continuity for children and families. When students begin their educational journey in their neighborhood school, they benefit from consistent routines, consistent relationships, and expectations that carry seamlessly into the elementary years. Homeschool placement reduces reliance on specialized or separate settings. By increasing the capacity within general education environments, we are able to serve students in a more inclusive, developmentally appropriate classroom, which is related to and aligned to our district's commitment to serve students in the least restrictive environments and early intervention within Tier 1 core instruction. We know that early inclusion supports long-term academic, emotional, and social outcomes. When students start in general education along with their peers, they build some foundational readiness skills. They build confidence, and they have a stronger sense of belonging, which we know are key predictors for their long-term academic success. This work, again, reflects our broader commitment to equity and access by expanding those home-based 4K programming opportunities, ensuring that more families are able to receive high-quality early learning opportunities in their own communities, thus reducing barriers and increasing that alignment across pre-K through grade 5. Part of our commitment as well has been looking at intentional pairing of classrooms. So pairing our preschool special education classrooms along with our 4K general education classrooms to the greatest extent possible. This structure, again, reinforces and reflects our belief that early learning environments should be inclusive, they should be developmentally appropriate, and that they are reflective of that sense of shared ownership for all of our youngest learners. Inclusive early childhood settings support long-term success as we build language, social emotional development, and those early academic foundational skills. We'll talk a little bit more about what those are in a few moments. But research shows us that early access to general education environments promote that stronger school readiness. Again, making sure that our students who are least prepared are better prepared for what comes next and have a smoother transition into kindergarten, while also reducing that need for more restrictive placements later on. On this slide, you will see examples of those intentional pairings of classrooms. These are the locations for the current 25-26 school year where we have intentionally paired the general education 4K classroom along with preschool special education classrooms. And we feel that there are multiple benefits of creating these intentionally paired opportunities. By pairing our 4K programs with our preschool special education classrooms, again, we're supporting inclusive opportunities. You'll see a theme that's running through the work that we do in early childhood. Strategic scheduling here allows shared experience for students. That intentional pairing helps schools to align schedules for things like recess, lunch, and other routines so that our students in our preschool special education classroom and our students in our 4K classrooms can learn, play, and interact together throughout the school day, strengthening their social skills, peer modeling, and a sense of belonging. We also believe in the opportunity for students to participate together in experiences beyond the classroom. So field trips and school-wide events here are planned with both groups of students in mind, providing equitable access to rich learning opportunities and ensuring that all students are included in the broader school community. Our early childhood teachers also have the benefit built-in collaboration with their partners, and they have an opportunity for professional learning structures by intentionally pairing the classrooms. Pairing classrooms creates natural teams. Our 4K teachers, preschool special education teachers, and support staff such as speech-language pathologists, occupational therapists can engage in joint planning. They can engage in deep, rich data discussions and professional learning communities that, again, deepen shared ownership and also improve instructional alignment. And then lastly, we believe that these cross-disciplinary collaboration opportunities strengthen early intervention. With classrooms intentionally located together, all early childhood staff can problem solve in real time, align strategies and instructional opportunities, and support students within their least restrictive environment, which we know reflects best practice in early childhood inclusion and instruction. So moving beyond just the information about how a student applies, what our structures and locations look like, let's talk a little bit about what we do in preschool to ensure that our students are academically and socially prepared for what comes next. We began our presentation today sharing how our early childhood programs are designed to build those strong beginnings and to strengthen the path forward for students. Our framework for building those strong foundations is based on the South Carolina profile of a ready kindergartner. That South Carolina profile of a ready kindergartner was developed through a collaboration between South Carolina First Steps and the South Carolina Department of Education as mandated through 2014 legislation. An expert working group defined school readiness and the domains listed here, such as language and literacy development, mathematical thinking and reasoning, approaches to learning and inquiry, physical development, self-help, and motor skills. These domains are also reflected in the South Carolina Early Learning Standards. Our Greenville County Schools 4K curriculum is anchored in those South Carolina Early Learning Standards, and we have developed our 4K curriculum maps to ensure that our students have access to high-quality preschool education and instruction consistently across all of our classrooms in both our child development centers as well as in our elementary schools. Let's take a closer look at those domains that are included here. The first one of those is language development and communication. And you see some of the key areas under this domain listed here. The South Carolina Early Learning Standards in this domain include students learning to communicate by participating in conversations with peers and with adults in the classroom setting and the school community setting. They do this through one-on-one, small group, and larger group interactions. Our students are encouraged to ask questions, and they are expected to ask and answer questions in order to seek help, to get information, or to clarify something that is not understood. Students are also learning the foundations of reading and writing through the standards in this domain. These foundations of reading include students learning to develop an interest in books, understanding print awareness, how we hold a book, that we read a book from left to right, understanding that we start at the beginning and we go through the end, understanding that whole sense of having a beginning and middle and end in text. We also work on knowledge of the alphabet. Students are using and sharing books during not only classroom opportunities, but also in intentional play opportunities that are provided for them. And some of our students are engaging in early reading behaviors by the time that they complete our 4K program. Foundations of writing is also critical in our preschool classrooms. Students are representing their thoughts and ideas through a variety of methods that may start with marks, scribbles, drawings, and then eventually progress to writing letters or letter-like forms. We talk about that this may start as kid writing, which might be some scribbles on a page or drawing a picture to represent a thought or idea, before that transitions to tracing letters and then ultimately finally using their knowledge of letters to write. At times, this writing might begin as a student writing the first letter of a word, such as writing M to represent the word mommy. But as you can see in the bottom picture here, students are actually working on identifying beginning letters of a text that they have actually created in small group instruction with their teachers. So in addition to language development and communication, we work on mathematical thinking and expression. You see here the primary areas under these early learning standards. So in the South Carolina Early Learning Standards in Mathematical Thinking and Expression domains, this includes things such as students learning to rote count to 20, to recognize numbers up to 10, and to attempt to write those as numbers or number-like forms. And they may do this during play or during daily instructional activities. Students are starting to show that they understand that putting objects together will make a set, and that taking objects away may make a smaller set. So they are able to reason and to think through questions such as, how many do we need? Or if we want to increase this to 10, how many more do we need? Students also begin to identify, describe, classify, and understand things such as shape, size, direction, and movement, and they are able to apply mathematical thinking to help solve problems in their everyday environment. In preschool classrooms, we take an intentional approach to play and learning. In this domain, we know that intentional play becomes a natural part of the learning process. And you can see some key areas under this domain in terms of curiosity and information seeking, using play and imagination, engaging in problem solving, learning flexibility, and helping to develop attentiveness, effort, and persistence. Students show curiosity and express interest in the world around them, and they demonstrate creativity, imagination, and inventiveness. In this domain, students are engaging in learning activities that help them to purposefully try different ways of doing things to see what will work and how they work. They may be adjusting blocks to build a ramp to help a ball roll further or faster. Students also plan play scenarios and use and create a variety of props or tools to enact them. They may engage in dramatic play. They may engage in some construction type activities. Students seek and make use of ideas. They seek help from adults and peers to solve problems, and they are expected to be able to focus on what is relevant to a task, such as sorting multicolored wooden shapes into categories based on that shape, or asking real-life questions such as, how do I get this paint off my pants? We also work on social and physical development as a part of the South Carolina Early Learning Standards. We know that our students are constructing knowledge about the world around them constantly. They are doing this through thinking and reasoning, by using their senses, by recalling information, and using it to address new situations that they may encounter or to solve problems that they may encounter throughout the day. They are able to demonstrate self-expression and creativity in a variety of forms and contexts, such as including that intentional play that they may be doing in centers, the use of visual arts, music, drama, and even dance. So engaging sometimes in singing songs that have movements to go along with them. Within this domain, our children are also demonstrating knowledge of roles and relationships that they have within the classroom, within their own homes, within the school community, and their community at large. Students are able to work on developing those social skills when interacting with their peers, such as learning things like how to share, how to take turns, and even beginning conflict resolution. To support physical development, our students can participate in simple games or structured motor activities, such as songs with movement, throwing and catching a ball. And as a means to develop motor skills further, our students might engage in activities that require some of that hand-eye coordination. They might be building with manipulatives or blocks, molding clay, or working with puzzles that perhaps have smaller pieces. So lots of opportunities for our students to construct knowledge, to understand how they exist socially within a classroom, a school, and a community, and also to express themselves creatively. Thank you again for this opportunity this morning to share with you how our early childhood programs are truly building a better graduate beginning in pre-K. We are committed to providing high-quality early childhood experiences for our students and for our families to ensure that they are better prepared for the transition to kindergarten and to setting a strong foundation for their educational journey.
Thank you, Beverly. Before we take questions, Nancy, we're getting voting results pop up on our screens for a vote that we haven't even taken yet, and it includes Mrs. Mosley, who's not here. Can we just suspend that activity on the board docs? Okay. Can we hide? Is there a way of hiding it? Because we'll X out and it'll pop back up. Okay, if we hit hide voting, that'll keep it from popping up on our, nope. But it says we voted on 4.02, which has not even been brought up yet. We'll go ahead and move forward with the agenda, but just if staff could clean that up, that'd be appreciated. Okay, thank you, Beverly, for your
Thank you.
presentation. First question comes from Dr. Presley.
Thank you, Mr. Sailors. Real quick question.
Yes.
Have the early learning and literacy standards been revamped or rewritten to align with the latest iterations of the mathematics and ELA standards that have recently come out?
Those have not been rewritten at the state level. However, we really work closely within our early childhood programs to ensure that we have vertical alignment with our kindergarten programs. So our early learning team members participate in conversations with our academic specialists for ELA and mathematics. We're planning our curriculum maps together to ensure that we have alignment, working together on professional development to ensure that there's alignment as students move forward from that 4K experience to make sure that they're ready for what comes next in kindergarten.
Thank
Dr.
y'all.
Presley, as a reminder too, our pre-K teachers also participated in Letters for Pre-K professional development training.
Thank you so much. Thank y'all for leading the pack on this. And I would just say that with the state of things these days at the state level, y'all might need to step up and offer some support to the rest of the state on this if they don't come forward with it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Doolin.
Thank you. Thank you for this presentation. I don't know if, I don't know about anyone else's children, but I had a child that participated in this program, and it is one of my favorite things that Greenville County Schools does. My question specifically is, how many families apply for a spot and aren't offered one?
We do maintain a waiting list throughout the year. We currently have families who are on that waiting list. None of the children who are on the waiting list at this time have any of those risk factors that I shared in the presentation.
So the ones on the wait list don't meet the criteria for, okay.
Currently, they do not have risk factors. Yes, ma'am.
Well, in my early intervention days, I helped a lot of children transition into the 3K programs in the counties where they lived. And one thing I loved about those programs was that even in 3K, there were typically developing students in the class also. But ours is only for students with disabilities. And if we were to admit students that don't have disabilities and are typically developing, how could we fund that? Or where would that, how could we make that happen?
Let me make sure first I understand. Use the term typically developing. There are risk factors that, I think if you say typically developing to some individuals, they would more associate that with special needs classrooms. But you're talking about pre-K as a whole and students not possessing any of the risk factors.
Well, not having a disability, a risk factor that was socioeconomic or that, I mean, that's different than this is, 3K is solely kids
Oh,
with
you were talking
disabilities.
about 3K.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about 4K. Right now, 3K is funded through IDEA and local revenue. There might be a little bit of Title I money in it. Is there, Robin? Is there any Title I money in 3K? 3K. There is no state funding. There is no state funding for anything below kindergarten. So all of that, 4K and 3K, falls to local funds or state funds, federal funds, excuse me, Title I. And we do use Title I funds in 4K. And the state provides an allocation that's equal to about 20 classrooms of 4K for us. So proportionally be the same all over the state. 20 classrooms, and we have how many classrooms right now? We have 81. So the bulk, the 81 minus the 20, so 61 of those are fully funded by either general fund, predominantly general fund, and Title I. So if we were to add any 3K, that's going to be 100% on general fund. And roughly, a pre-K class, 3 or 4, would have a recurring cost of around $145,000 to $150,000. Then there's a one-time startup cost, which is, in the grand scheme of things, is not very large. The other challenge becomes space. In fact, the only reason that we have not moved some of the other standalone 4Ks out into what would be their zoned school is because we do not have sufficient space. You can't, it's much like kindergarten. You cannot use a regular classroom. These classrooms, you may recall that, they have to be larger. They're more than 1,000 square feet. So we have a limited number of them. As we have built additions or new construction, we have provided for them in additions and new construction. Going back to the kind of operating under this premise, we'd like for the whole family to be together in the same school because many of these children have older siblings. So any expansion of a 3-year-old program would fall 100% on general fund funding and would require, in some regions of the county, space that we don't currently have.
Thank you.
Mrs. Middleton.
Thank you. It was a good presentation. I am a big advocate of pre-K because I feel that these kids that are 3 and 4 and whatever, I mean, they're like sponges. Okay, they really can learn a lot. And to see them just be, I mean, I'm talking about the majority of just all kids, to see them just be babysat in daycare centers frustrates me. My own granddaughter lives in Florida where they do have pre-K, and it's been amazing. I mean, she's learned a lot in that very short time frame. Now, is pre-K, I wish there was some way we could advocate that for the state to push that for all children. Is it a half-day program?
We operate a full-day program.
Oh, it is a full day, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Several states do have it. Florida, I think, is one for sure. DC has it, and Vermont and Colorado, quite a few. And maybe this is a move in the right, maybe this will happen eventually. Okay, I think that's really just my comment to follow up on Dr. Presley and Ms. Doolin there, about that this is something this would be a very important area to advocate for all children. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Stiles?
Thank you. First, I'd like to say that was an excellent and very thorough presentation. I was very impressed. I heard a very innovative strategy that, as a former school principal, I feel like is wonderful, and that was the intentional pairing, where you're involving special education personnel, speech pathologists, all with a K-4 teacher to ensure that we support all of the needs of these K-4 and K-3 students. I love that. That's very innovative, and that's new since I've left the profession, and I can, looking back, I can see there was a need in that area. I wanted to know, is that something that is particular to our district, or is that happening across the state, or is that just an innovative strategy that we have added to our programming?
It is something that we added in terms of looking at our data, looking at what our transition opportunities were for our students, particularly our students who are being served in preschool programs for students with disabilities, and looking at long-range trends, seeing the opportunity for those students to come out of those preschool programs and move into a general education environment with support. And we were seeing over time reductions in that. So we began to think about what are some of the strategies, what are some of the things that we can put in place to ensure those opportunities for inclusion, those opportunities for collaboration across all of early childhood, because whether we are a preschool special education classroom or a 4K classroom, we're all early childhood and all focused on meeting our youngest learners where they are and making sure they're ready for what comes next. So those were some intentional efforts that we put in place and really moving forward with that a lot for this first year, recombining 3s and 4s in our preschool classrooms with disabilities, and then also making sure that we have those opportunities for collaboration so that there's a partner in a school. You know, sometimes you feel like you are an island unto yourself when you just have one classroom in one space, and so having someone with whom they can collaborate around decisions for students, around curriculum, and ensuring that we are providing the richest experiences possible for all of our students.
Well, thank you. That is definitely setting the bar, and I appreciate that very, very much. And I also had just one question about the January 30th cutoff, and then after that you go on the waiting list. And, you know, just going back to my experience as a school principal, so often it was right before school started that a parent came in to register. You know, perhaps they move a lot, and I was able to identify right away that the student they were wanting to enter in K-4 perhaps had a disability. As educators, we have the ability to do that sometimes. And I was always concerned that because they were so late, that their need would not be addressed. And I know that, I know I've talked to Dr. Stevens about my concern about this before, and I know that you've implemented some strategies to kind of address that situation. Can you kind of walk me through and explain that process a little better? Could you do that? And also for those listening, just so everyone will know. Thank you.
I'd be happy to, yes. So we do maintain that wait list, but we are also looking at those risk factors that a student has, whether those are a child risk factors, such as a student with a disability, or whether there are family risk factors. And so students are constantly moving off of that waiting list as space availability allows, also trying to look again at programming opportunities that are closest to that child's home-based school. So we are making those rolling placements throughout the year, again, based on ensuring that we are serving our students who need the program the most. We recently, just even last week, had another round of placements and offering spaces to students. We additionally do maintain spaces throughout the year for students specifically with developmental needs, students with disabilities who may come through that child find process that we don't know about at this time in the year or may not even know about in August. So we also maintain those space availability for students at various locations across the district.
That's excellent. And my final question, and this, I found this to be true. When a parent came in and they found out there wasn't a space available and there was a waiting list, so often they'll say, well, they weren't interested in doing the application. What do we do to train our clerks, who are often the ones up front, to encourage the parent to create an application even though they'll be on a waiting list? What do we do to encourage and promote that? Is there communication with our clerks and how to deal with situations like that?
Our preschool coordinator works very closely with the school clerks and with the entire planning and demographics team and looking at enrollment for students to try to encourage that consistent messaging. So she is constantly in communication with those individuals. And then we also try to put out information for the greater public in terms of the programmings that we are offering. So postcards going out. We have information on the website right now. There's a short video that's available as well. But she does work really closely with those school-based staff in terms of encouraging those enrollment opportunities and those application opportunities.
I'm very glad to hear that. Thank you so much again. Excellent presentation. I enjoyed it.
Mr. Cochran.
Thank you. On the cover sheet provided for this agenda item, it states that GCS 4K delivers essential early literacy, numeracy, and social emotional skills. My question is, as it relates to the social emotional skills mentioned, is there a specific program or curriculum that we use to deliver those? And if so, what is the name of that program or curriculum?
We implement the pyramid model, which is endorsed by the State Department of Education. And so pyramid model truly provides a framework for supporting a student's emotional development, social development, and also addressing behaviors. A pyramid model is evidence-based, so it uses proven practices and research to help address healthy development for students. It's really focusing on preparation for students and prevention, making sure that we are providing students with skills to recognize their emotions, to learn how to interact with peers, taking turns, sharing, early conflict resolution. Works closely with families communication as well. And the goal is to provide our early childhood staff, our preschool educators, our paraprofessionals in those classrooms with skills and training to be able to meet the needs of the students in those environments. So we provide training all throughout the school year for staff for the implementation of the pyramid model.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Sayers.
Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell.
Thank you for this presentation. And with me being a former family literacy and parents as teacher, have we, I know the parents are the first teachers of their kids, and the brain develops tremendously between 0 and 3. Is it any way that we are looking at maybe getting the family literacy and parents as teachers back into our school system? I want to know what kind of parenting programs are in our pre-K, first of all, because I know if you use Title I funds, with me being a prior Title I facilitator, that parenting is an important component of Title I. So what kind of parenting programs do we have as part of our preschool programs?
Individual schools have a variety of parenting programs where they would be bringing parents in to talk more about how we can develop some of those foundational early reading or early numeracy skills in the home environment. Our CDCs also work with First Steps as a partner, and they provide parenting programs as well through that collaboration and partnership, such as Triple P Parenting.
I've talked to Burke numerous years about family literacy and trying to get it back in the school districts. But I have one more question about the pairing of the schools with the CDCs. And I know that's a geographical thing. If they're close to an elementary school, how many CDCs do we have that are not close to elementary schools that are not in that pairing?
We currently have 3 standalone CDCs.
And what,
So Greenview.
which ones are they?
Greenview, Northwest Crescent, and Paul Dunbar.
Okay, because I know that this is a good thing that we're doing with the pairing. So how are we, I know that they are getting more things because they are with the elementary school. So are we doing anything with those 3 to make sure that they are getting those kind of services too?
Yes, ma'am. We provide rich professional development experiences for our standalone CDCs. Currently, we are engaging in some vertical collaboration with those standalone CDCs. Those 3 centers are paired with elementary schools that currently do not have a 4K program. And we are having visits where the elementary school is having an opportunity to come and see what is happening in our pre-K programs in the CDCs, and we have lead teachers who are coming from those CDCs into those elementary schools and visiting kindergarten classes, again trying to ensure that we have that close alignment with what's happening in preschool and what would be the best preparation for our students as they enter kindergarten. We're engaging in work around professional learning communities in our 3 standalone CDCs. And quarterly, those CDCs, 3 campuses come together for whole group professional development, really trying to highlight some of the great work that's happening in the individual ones. We've had a focus on developing those foundations of writing skills over the last year. And so we're actually highlighting some teacher practices of what was great things that are happening in the classrooms.
Now, do we still have the collaborations with the Head Starts and the CDCs where they take the kids to visit the elementary school so that they can see what that experience is? I know we used to do it a long time ago. So, because they would bring the kids over to visit the 5Ks, the 4Ks, the Head Starts would, to let them see what that elementary experience is going to be. Do we still do that?
We do not have that in
Do not.
place.
Okay, but thank you. That's all, Chuck. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Hearing none, I think we're through with this. It was information only, so thank you very much to the administration. And this concludes the instructional portion of today's agenda. And Madam Chairman, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Sailors. Our 4th matter of business is administration, and Ms. Middleton, you'll be chairing this section. I'm going to give you the floor at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first item in the administrative section is item 4.01, Human Resource Action Report 2024 to 2025. Dr. Royster, would you like to speak to this?
Just very briefly, Ms. Middleton, thank you. As you will recall, every late fall, early winter, usually around October, November, sometimes as late as this month, we do the human resources actions from the preceding year, which would include hiring up to the beginning of this school year. And we also like to make sure that we present the report at a time when we have teacher retention rate comparison data. And that's really one of the reasons that's driven, to a degree, the lateness of this report. We know what our turnover rate is for teaching personnel, but we do not have comparison data until SARA, the Center for Education Recruitment and Retention, located at Winthrop, which calculates this for the state, provides a statewide number. So we'll have really a good basis of comparison. So we have that available now, and at this time, Mr. Davies is going to present the report, including numbers of transactions, type of transactions, what the profile of our employment looks like, as well as how does our retention rate of teachers compared with the rest of the state. Mr. Davey?
Thank you, Dr. Royster. Good morning, Board of Trustees. Just completing my 6th month in this new opportunity. I've been fortunate to work with our district in a lot of different roles and serve our district, so it's been a real privilege to get to serve the district in this capacity. We have a great human resources team. Some of them are here this morning, and just appreciate all the work they do. To kick us off here, this is our Human Resources Action Report for the time period of 24-25, July 1 to June 30. It's connected to Goal 2 of the strategic plan, which is to recruit, retain, and develop exemplary personnel in all positions. You can see here, this is just an overall view of the hires that were processed during that time frame. 2,324 hires. Just for reference, this compares to 2,690 hires the previous year. So a few hundred less hires this past year than the year before. You can see those numbers as they play out in the different areas. 520 instructional, 225 in the classified area, 49 professional administrative, 565 hourly, 425 adjunct and extended day, and 540 in the substitute area. These are just some different HR actions that were completed. Just for your information, you can see those numbers there. The hourly operations work group, in-person orientations, we had 48 of those that were completed during that time frame, 21 substitute virtual orientations, 96 salaried group, work group virtual orientations. You can see the number of transfers there, 2,716, which does include 165 non-teaching to teaching transfers. We saw 2,681 separations. You can see the total number of applications there, just shy of 35,000. The long-term medical leave reports were 1,318. You can see the intermittent and military numbers there. There were 2,636 employee relations representative contacts. We have a couple of our folks, Ms. Sam Jones coordinates that effort for us. She's our senior human resources coordinator. Ms. Atwood is with her. They handle all of those contacts. And then we had 232 unemployment claims and 176 hearings that were attended. So a lot of actions going on during that time frame. These are some teacher statistic updates. You can see we had 932 teacher recertifications, 410 teacher degree level changes, 5,305 contracts renewed, 283 student teacher placements, and 561 practicum placements. I think we had about 17 different partners that we utilize for those practicum placements. These are just some teacher recruitment events. I won't read all of this, but we'll just touch on those. The Ignite the Future event, we just held that several weeks ago. It's an annual event held for student teachers from any district. They get to talk to our principals. We have a panel of principals and we have a recruitment team. We talk to them, we give them interview tips, and it's just an outreach program to try to attract quality to our district. See our Shining Stars events, a Greenville County Schools annual recruitment event. This past year it was held at Southside High School. We had 218 candidates attended the fairs. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we hired about 70 of those candidates who said on the application that they learned about us at the Shining Stars event. Now again, there's a lot of different options that they choose there, so some of them may have found out about us through Shining Stars and just mentioned another way, but I think about 70 of them specifically mentioned that we hired them from the Shining Stars event. We do recruitment fairs. We attended 45 job fairs, 21 in-state, 24 out-of-state. Again, this just helps us to leverage the diverse talent, personal connections, and again, attract talent to our district. You see there the pathways to becoming a teacher. This is to enhance our pipeline of educators. All classified staff of Greenville County were invited to participate in this event. You saw a few minutes ago, we had a good number of people who did transfer from non-teaching careers to teaching careers. just a continuation of that. We're very proud of our GATE program, the Greenville Alternative Teacher Education Program. It's an exciting, innovative pathway to the career in teaching. It is the first district-based job-embedded alternative certification program in the state. So we're very proud of that program. And also our Future Teacher Academy. Our recruitment team collaborates with academics to engage students in our Future Teacher Academy across all of our GCS high schools. Again, just another effort to get interest from our students into the teaching profession. A couple of initiatives mentioned on this slide. Of course, we do social media outreach and spotlights. Our recruitment team that works with Ms. Spivey works very hard on all those efforts. And then, of course, through advertisements. So they also play a crucial role in reaching out to candidates to recruit them to Greenville County Schools. This is just a continued focus on attracting quality educators. If you can see the underlined part of that title, Attracting Quality Educators. If you click on that link, it will open up a page for you and will give you a brief description about all these things. There's a little narrative there in case you would like more information about each one of those. It's there for your review. You can see these are just some programs that of course, our recruitment team specifically works with to gather more interest for Greenville County Schools. The Call Me Mr. Partnership, the Furman University Teacher-to-Teacher Program, South Carolina Create, which increases or is geared to increase special education teacher pipeline, the Expressway to Tigertown, the internship with collegiate partners, and of course, Clemson's Teaching Resident Master Model Program. And then we work with all of our colleges and universities to stay in contact with them. These are just the job fairs that our recruitment team attended last year. You can see some of them were visited multiple times. I think some colleges have a fall and a spring job fair, and our recruitment team, many times if you see a 2 beside their name, that's what that was about. They went both times. But these are the different fairs that were attended by our recruitment team. And again, just an effort to connect with students on campus, let them know who we are, try to make those connections, and draw the best and the brightest to Greenville County Schools. As you know, all these efforts, we were able to start school off this year with all of our vacancies filled. You know, we started that way, and I think all these efforts absolutely make an impact to make sure that happens. You know, the teaching profession is not easy. It requires special folks, and all these efforts help us to find those special folks. These are just some benefits of attending the job fairs that our recruitment team put together. Again, I won't read all of them. I'll just go through the titles that help us. It gives us access to diverse talent, gives us an opportunity to make face-to-face connections with candidates. It helps us to do some efficient screening, gives our district visibility across the state and the country. It gives us networking opportunities, provides for real-time feedback. It helps us to showcase our culture and our mission, again, across the state and the country, and it helps us to build a talent pipeline for folks that we are trying to get to come to Greenville County Schools. This is just a little bit of information about the Shining Stars event. As we mentioned before, we had 218 participants attend at Southside High School last year. It was a great event, a lot of excitement. The high school was just filled up with folks excited about coming to Greenville County Schools. And you can see there all the states that were represented there at Southside High School. You can see a couple of key statistics there. 97% of our principals felt the quality of the candidates was above average or excellent. That was great to hear. And then 90% of the candidates felt the overall event was above average or excellent. So I thought that was a very positive thing on both ends. You know, our principals think it's worthwhile to go and meet quality candidates, and the candidates felt like the event was a great showcase for Greenville County Schools. Just some bullet points here, teacher retention efforts to kind of summarize some things. Again, we have community partnerships. with 10 at the top, Public Education Partners, our foundation, and the Greenville Drive. We have a retiree waiver, which allows folks to be able to come back and continue to work after they've retired. That's been a great retention effort for us. It keeps quality folks doing a good job, able to continue to do that job, and fill some key vacancies for us. The Employee Assistance Program through Essentra Health that Ms. Jones and her team help to provide support to all our employees through. Of course, our employee relations representatives do a fantastic job working with our employees day in and day out. They just, this has given me an up-close and personal look at the work they do with all our employees on a daily basis, and they just do a tremendous job supporting our employees. Also, GCS social media content, and then competitive salaries. Thanks to all of you for your support year after year to provide the support for our teachers and to get them to the place where they're among the top in the state in terms of the benefits and the package, and just a great opportunity to work in Greenville County Schools. A lot of it is thanks to your support, again, year after year. Many years in the past, I've worked for Greenville County Schools for a long time, and it is a great place to work, and that's because of our strong leadership and our support from our board. This is, Dr. Royster mentioned this, these numbers just in, our GCS teacher turnover rate, right below 10%, which is great to see. That's an improvement from the year previous, and you can see what the turnover rate is for the state of South Carolina. So we're running about 1% lower than the turnover rate for the state. This is a little bit about our hourly work group statistics. Miss Lavetta Williams is our manager for personnel, and our operations group does a fantastic job in that area. And these are some numbers for our hourly work groups. You can see openings at the beginning of school. We were still looking for 35 folks to work in the custodial area, 46 folks to work in our fans area, and 50 folks to work in the transportation area. We pulled numbers again in October. We've seen improvement in all areas, but we're still working to fill vacancies there, of course. Custodial vacancies is at, I think, Colonel Carlin, maybe an all-time low. It's been running about 9 or 10 most of the year after the start of school. You can see we still have some work to do in our fans area and transportation. Of course, Mr. James and his team, they are constantly pulling in drivers, and then they lose a few drivers, but they're constantly putting drivers through class, getting them behind the wheel as quickly as they can. So they've done a great job with that and continue to work to get those vacancies filled. Again, we appreciate all that you've done to raise salaries for our hourly work groups in all those areas, and that's been a big impact in helping us hire folks and keep them here. You can see the job fairs that were held. Lavetta Williams, Vicki Sims do a great job coordinating those job fairs. We had 10 during the 24-25 time frame with 731 attendees. I've been to a few of those this year. They're just well run, and we do a great job of attracting folks to Greenville County Schools in our hourly work groups through those job fairs. Again, these are some highlights for attracting our hourly work groups. Again, we already mentioned the support from our board and allowing us to raise pay and provide that better quality of wage for those employees. We have a recruiter that shares information about open jobs across our upstate. We have job fairs monthly, sometimes more. We do an employee referral incentive for transportation. We have allowed our employees to take the TABE test, which is, again, it gives them another avenue for being able to meet the requirement to be able to get employment with us. Of course, they're able to use UKG Wallet, which gives them access to pay if they need that in interims between paychecks. And then also we allow employees to work in other hourly areas. For instance, if we have a fans worker that wants to work 12 months, we'll allow them to also work in transportation or in custodial services. So if folks want to work and have those opportunities to work year-round, we find those opportunities and plug them in and allow them to work. Again, this is a slide that focuses on some of the work that our employee relations team does through Essentra Health. You can see there that that the utilization of services for that time period, we had 450 employees and dependents that used those services, and we had an additional 1,026 Essentia web hits for self-search information for Greenville County Schools. So our employee assistance program has been well utilized by our employees. We think that's been a very valuable asset for our employees for years in the past. Also, we included EAP sessions this summer, the Summer Academy. I was fortunate to be able to attend some of those. They were focused on team building. You can see there another title, The Struggle is Real, Strategies for Time Management, and then Workplace Accountability. Also, we conducted customer service training. You can see those titles there, Improving Workplace Communication, Providing Great Customer Service, and Effective Communicating with Challenging Callers. Also, our employee relations training continues to be done in the area of civil treatment and situational leadership. So a lot of training, a lot of support from our employee relations team for our employees. These are just some priorities for us. Of course, first and foremost, you know that we are implementing a new Fusion Forward program, which is our new enterprise resource planning system. We'll replace Lawson and Global Human Resources Systems. That's a huge lift for finance and HR and all of our folks working over there. They're actually in meetings part or all of the day, off and on every day, working with consultants to make sure that this goes smoothly. That is scheduled to go live November of 2026 in just about 11 months here. So we're looking forward to that. Of course, we want to continue to develop new leader supports, focus on growing recruitment strategies for career changers, continue to clear pathways for candidates interested in hourly work group roles. We want to continue to expand our internal recruitment pipelines. We are working with Ms. Cap and Candace and others to support a program to provide additional assistance for first-year GATE and international special education teachers. Put forth some extra things in place this year to support that group of employees. And then, of course, we expanded our Upbeat survey to all employee work groups this year. In the past, we've only surveyed teachers twice a year, and we surveyed our principals once a year. We've expanded that this year to survey all of our hourly work groups, all of our department groups, and we also surveyed all of our non-teaching staff in schools that report to principals. So basically, all of our staff was surveyed this year. We were very pleased with the participation rates. We had 91% of our teachers completed the survey, and we also had overall with all of our other operational groups, we went well past the goal we were trying to hit for our operational work groups and hourly work groups with Upbeat survey. They said usually what they see is somewhere about a 60% return rate first time out. So we exceeded that, almost hit 70% with that. So that was great. Some of our hourly work groups were higher, some were lower, but on an average, I think we exceeded the goals that we set. So we got a lot of good feedback. Those folks, all those department supervisors are working through all that feedback right now to really try to hear the voice of all of our employees and do everything we can to continue to improve in that area. That's the goal, just continued improvement. And again, we think we have a lot of great things going on, but we can always get better. So that's pretty much the highlights of that. We have some folks in HR here that if I can't answer your questions, I know that they will be able to. And so we'll stop there. And again, thank you for the opportunity to give you a little feedback about what's going on in the human resource world.
Thank you, Mr. Davey. That was very informative. This topic was for information only. We'll open it up for questions now. Ms. Goodwin Caldwell.
Thank you, Mr. Davey, for this report on HR. I have some questions about, you said, I know that we didn't have any vacancies at the beginning of the school year, but how many teaching vacancies do we currently have? With those separations, how many of those are teachers? we have 2,681 separations. Is that since the beginning of the school year?
No, that report was for last year, the folks that separated between July 1 and June of the 24-25 school year.
How many do we have this year?
I don't have
So
that
far.
number of how many total separations we have that year. Ms. Johnson, I think we can get that. Yes. But I don't have that number right now in front of me, but we can get that to you.
Okay. Also, do we still do the exit interviews of the people that's leaving?
We do, and actually with Upbeat Survey, we worked with them to do an exit survey with them on a monthly basis. So Ms. Johnson and her folks work with Upbeat, and every month they send them a list of the employees that have departed, terminated that month. And we have their personal email address, and they get a survey opportunity, and they get multiple reminders to do that exit survey. We started that with them a month ago. Previous to that, our recruitment team conducted exit surveys with our staff.
I have some questions about the GATE program.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
saw on your last slide, you said that y'all have support program to provide additional assistance. What is the turnover rate in our GATE program? I know that they are not regularly certified, but are they treated like our regularly certified teachers? I see that you say you have a support program
Okay.
for GATE.
Yes, and Ms.
What does
Cap, I
that
don't know
support
if you
program
know.
look like?
Ms. Cap, do you know off the top of your head the turnover rate in GATE?
I don't know the turnover rate exactly in GATE. I know that it is not very high. And the support that they receive is really more than a traditionally certified teacher coming out of the university.
I see that says first year GATE. Do you not support them until they go through the ADAPT process,
Yes,
which
we
is
do.
3 years?
They are supported by a coach in their first 2 years, and in their third year, they are supported as they go through the ADAPT process.
I know, with us having a teacher shortage and people coming from the business sector into teaching, we should try to keep them in teaching. In the separating from the people in the GATE program, is that different from the way we separate from our regular certified teachers?
If I understand what you're asking, I'm a little confused by your use of the term separate.
When they become unemployed from the school district,
Correct.
are they given the opportunity to do the exit interview? And are they treated like our regular certified teachers whenever they are brought in to HR?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I'm like, treat people as you want to be treated.
Yes, ma'am. They're all treated the same. Yes,
And
ma'am.
I think Mr. Davy would agree.
The same is not good.
These are contracted teachers. They are on a GATE certificate issued by the State Department of Education. So in terms of that kind of action, they are no different from any teacher coming out of a traditional school.
Well, I'm hearing something completely different.
Okay.
And that's why I want to get some clarity on the difference with our GATE and our PACE teachers as opposed to our regularly certified teachers.
There is a difference between a continuing contract teacher and all of those groups of people you just mentioned. You do not become a continuing contract teacher until year 2 or 3. If you are a fully certified individual with a degree from accredited university. So in that respect, a GATE teacher, a PACE teacher, and a first-year teacher coming out of a college certification program, fully certified, have the same statutory rights regarding a dismissal. They do not have the same rights as a continuing contract teacher. The goal is for any of those persons, no matter what their contract status, if we can support them to the degree that they can become an effective teacher, we do so. Now, unfortunately, sometimes what happens is, despite a high level of support, you're talking about, and you all know this because you've approved the budget to do this, we're paying experienced teachers to mentor them. So despite mentoring them, despite increasing the mentoring if they're struggling, sometimes they're either unable or, a few times, unwilling to do what they need to do to carry out their responsibilities in such a way that we can assure that we are placing a quality and qualified teacher in front of our students. The last time we looked at retention rate among hirees, the retention rate for GATE teachers exceeded the retention rate for PACE teachers, and I believe it was equal to or may have even exceeded the retention rate for students coming out of traditional college programs, because the level of mentoring we provide them exceeds that which a regular first-year teacher receives.
Since we're talking about GATE and PACE, can you explain for the people that's listening, what's the difference between our GATE program and the PACE program that the state has?
Okay, the PACE program, as you already noted, is operated by the state. It features some level of mentoring. I don't want to get too far into details and say something that's not exactly accurate. The biggest difference is we conduct all those sessions with the GATE teachers. They include topics that are not necessarily covered with PACE teachers. But the biggest difference that we found is that we mentor those teachers for 2 full years. PACE does not do that. That's the biggest thing. And there's all kind of research, both our own experience with it and research out there, is if you pair beginning teachers with experienced teachers as a mentor, they are generally more successful. So the biggest thing is the level of mentoring, and that we have control over the things that we teach, for lack of a better term, or train or coach those teachers in, which goes above and beyond PACE. And in fact, we generally encourage people to utilize GATE rather than PACE to transition into teaching. And I believe that's reflected in our numbers in both GATE and PACE. And it might be we've gotten kind of so far over into that it might be time for us to do a presentation to the Committee of the Whole on the GATE and the PACE programs.
Yeah, I would like to have a report on GATE, on how many we've retained, and how many have left. Because like I say, I'm hearing some concerning things that are happening in HR as it relates to the separation of employment from the school district. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brett?
Mr. Davy, I don't have a question, but I guess what I have is a shout out to somebody in the recruitment faction. Her name is Angela Jarecki. I follow her on LinkedIn, and she is a power source. I see here that they've attended quite a few fairs, 24, 25. Are those fairs pretty well attended that they go to?
Margaret, I'll let you speak to that.
So we select the fairs that we go to based on the size of the teacher preparation program at those. So the answer to your question is yes, they are the most attended and those that we can attract the most from. If that helps, so yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, like I said, I follow her on LinkedIn. I have never met Angela myself, but will y'all please give her a pat on the back for me? I see her post every day, and not only does she seem to be so friendly and involved, but she's happy, and that's exactly who we want representing the school district, and I think that she's doing a great job. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yep, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Davey.
Thank you. Dr. Stiles?
Mr. Davey, I would just like to say once again that this presentation is filled with cutting-edge, innovative best practices, and it just, again, sets the bar, I'm confident, for our state. So I'd like to thank you for your leadership, as well as all of your personnel in the Human Resources Department. I just can't commend you enough for the outstanding job you do. I had a specific question about fans and transportation. I'm really pleased to see that you've worked to whittle down those numbers. I know that we're not exactly where we want to be because we want to be at 0 openings. I know that's the goal. And I think expanding the Upbeat surveys where all employees have feedback, they're allowed to give us feedback into their beliefs about the workplace. I think that will help us to continue to close that gap. My question is, the trends that we're experiencing in Greenville County, is there any data out there, like on the State Department of Education website, that lets us know where we can see vacancies in other districts and how we compare to that? Is there any data out there where we can see, I mean, we may be really knocking the bar out even though we have vacancies. I'm just curious about that.
Dr. Oyster may know of some. I know I reach out to other HR personnel administrators throughout the state, either in Charleston. I talked to the gentleman in Pickens a good bit, friends in Spartanburg. We have folks that we talk to about their openings, but I don't know of any statewide or national trend data on that. I can look into that to see what we can find.
I think the only trend data that we have, statewide trend data, is the teacher trend data. I'm not aware of anybody that collects information specifically to those type jobs. Now, the state, what they call it now, Department of Workforce, they would collect data on jobs similar, so a custodial job in general. So they may have data around that, but not school level. But anecdotally, what I experienced, and I think it's very similar to what Mr. Davey experiences, when I talk to superintendents or others in school districts, particularly if they are exclusively rural school districts, are a little bit different. But if it's anything other than that, they have the same shortages that we have, which tend to be more numerous in classified employment, and particularly bus drivers, custodial, food service. In 2 of those 3 cases, those are more entry-level wage jobs. Now, our bus driver jobs are not entry-level wage. They're $23 to $25 an hour. The exception to that generally is, at least within our state, in the more rural districts, they do not experience the same issues we do with filling bus driver, custodial, or food service jobs. But any of the suburban and urban school districts, not only within our state, but throughout the ones that we network with frequently, they're having those same issues.
Thank you for sharing that. I know when I served on the governor's task force, there's a dashboard that has all kinds of data. I was just wondering if there was any data out there on this information. And it would be great if the state did compile data, because that way, if there were districts that were excelling in that area, we could work with them to see what kind of strategies they're using. But I'm sad that doesn't exist, but I am glad that you're reaching out to other HR personnel to continue to close that gap in those areas. So again, thank you for a job, you and your staff, for a job very well done. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Miss all them. They work hard every day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Leventis Wells.
Thank you, Ms. Middleton.
Just one number I'll say, Dr. Royster mentioned it. Compared to PACE, we have 68 folks working for us that are in GATE last year that we hired, and 8 through PACE. So that gives you some kind of comparison there to the GATE versus PACE number from alternative certification area. Thank y'all.
Sorry. You have to excuse me. Ms. Morrison Fair.
Thank you, Ms. Middleton. I, too, would like to go with the question in the same lines as Dr. Stile. I'm looking at the gap in bus drivers. I am not getting complaints from my district. I'm having, as a matter of fact, comments that they are pleased with the bus drivers. They're making relationships with the children. I don't know what we can do, and I heard you say you do talk across the state on these issues. I would just like to know, maybe, you know, we have mentors for teachers. What is the profile of a happy bus driver? Because I'm trying to...
Less kids.
Yeah. Trying to figure out why we can't get additional bus drivers, especially with this salary. That's
I would
my
say
comment.
you know it when you see it, for sure. And those numbers, Ms. Morrison Fair, you know, when you see like that Adam and his staff are 40 short with drivers. Now, I will say they have on-call drivers, they have sub-drivers that don't want to work full-time, but they come in. Some of them work 2 or 3 days a week. Some of them will work mornings. Some of them will work afternoons. So that helps them a great deal. So to your point, our on-time rates for delivery for especially middle and high school students have greatly improved. We were able to continue this year. I think Adam told me on the first day of school, with his staff and with all his on-call drivers and his subs, he had a driver for every bus, even though he's still looking for 40 drivers. So they're very creative, and they utilize all their resources, and they do a lot. They all meet over at Roper Mountain every year with all their bus drivers, and they talk through culture and through, you know, how to best, you know, work with students and administrators and support the school and how to be a part of the school. So they've done a lot with climate, culture, how to be a happy bus driver on the bus, and to do your best to keep the students as happy as possible. It's a tough job, you know. I mean, you imagine, you know, driving the bus and keeping your eye on everything going on at the same time. It is not an easy job, but we have a lot of folks who do a great job with it. And Adam and his staff have done a great job supporting them. Ms. Williams does a great job supporting our transportation team as well.
As a follow-up to that, we talk about the vacancies in bus drivers, and Philip mentioned to you that includes we have sub-drivers that are assigned to come to work every day. Then there's an on-call list of sub-drivers. So that 40, whatever number it is today, that includes 24 that are floaters. In transportation, they call them floaters, but they are sub-drivers that show up every day. And they're put on the first route that is vacant that day. Once a month, we get this same report, sometimes more frequently if we see a pattern of an issue with it, that will tell us not only how many vacancies Mr. James has among drivers and aides, because we've got aides on all the special needs buses, but it also gives us the most important piece of information that we use, and that is on-time rate. And so looking at late buses, and I believe the last report we got, which was like 2 weeks ago, the late bus rate is less than 1%.
Excuse me. Sorry to interrupt. Without objection, we'll extend for, I still have a couple more questions. We'll extend for 10 more minutes. Thank you.
So the next question we ask, if there is, whatever that rate is, we're going to ask is that 1%, is that consistently the same schools over and over again? because that's important for us to know. But transportation does a good job of trying to manage it where the absent driver does not affect the same routes repeatedly. Then you ask what makes a happy bus driver? So statistically and anecdotally, the following two things. One of them Philip already talked about. One of them he touched on. Student discipline, support from the school for the discipline of students on the bus. That is one thing. I'm not going to talk about pay here because we've gotten pay up to a level that's not like a primary concern now. Obviously, it's still important to keep pace with it. The other is this, and Philip talked about it. We didn't go into specific detail. It is important to bus drivers that they feel like they are a part of the school. Now, they work for transportation. They work out of one of 4 regional bus centers. Almost all of them, the majority, serve 3 schools, an elementary, a middle, and a high school. Some don't, but most all of them do. They all serve, obviously, at least one location. Got drivers that serve only Washington Center, for example. But what is important to them is they feel like they're a part of that school. If the faculty gets a T-shirt, then they should get a T-shirt. If you celebrate the faculty and staff's birthdays, then celebrate the bus drivers' birthdays. And our schools do that. But that's what is important, and it's important that they all consistently do it. So whatever they're doing with their own staff that sits in front of them every day or stands in front of them every day, it's important that they do it with those drivers that serve their school every day. You may have seen the pictures coming out of the Elevate bonuses that were awarded at Alexander in the last month or so. You may have seen some of those pictures. There's one picture with just the bus drivers in it. It's showing their inclusion in that. Now, that's a district initiative. And most of the things, they're not these large dollar items. It is the thought behind that they are included in the same way that the aide, the first grade teacher, the 12th grade teacher, the coaches, the counselors, the office staff, that everybody gets recognized in some way that shows they're a part of that school team, that school family. That's extremely important to them, as it is to all other employees. It's important to our custodians, to our lunchroom, fans employees, and to all the employees. Every employee is important. Every employee. And that, we can say that, but including them shows that.
Thank you. Dr. Presley.
Real briefly, I had an opportunity to work as a PACE instructor for the State Department of Education for Region 1. And that was 2004, maybe through 2008 or something like that. So I have seen both sides of that. And what I would say is our GATE program in Greenville County School District is unparalleled in its ability to drill in and focus on the actual district-specific needs of our teachers, plus the robust mentoring that we do have in place over those 2 years after having seen what we tried to do at the State Department of Education, or through the State Department of Education, to support teachers. So in Region 1, we had Spartanburg, Oconee, Pickens, Greenville, all of those districts back then. And as much as we tried to support them, it was difficult because we did not know the nature of the district. So I want to commend Greenville County School District for the work that they continue to do to support this teacher pipeline. And at the end of the day, all you have to do is look at the numbers. 68 versus how many did you say are coming out of?
We had 68 versus 8 through PACE, I believe.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sailors.
Philip, talking about bus drivers, when they first are secured for employment, we provide them the opportunity to secure a CDL, correct?
Correct.
Is there a contractual agreement between them as an employee and us as the employer that requires, after expending those funds to train them, that they have so many days, months, years of service?
I don't believe so, sir.
So essentially, and I understand one of the reasons a lot of our new hires choose to go somewhere else in that area is for the very reason we were talking about earlier when it comes to student discipline on the bus. And a load of topsoil doesn't talk back to you like the children do.
Correct.
So that's one of the contributing factors, but have we ever given consideration to requiring that a new driver spends X time fulfilling their service so we at least recoup the initial investment that we place in place?
I know Adam and I have had discussion about it. We've had discussion with others, but we've never taken it past that.
You know what the rate is for that type of scenario?
I can find out from Adam and Dale. They have a pretty good idea of who's leaving and where they're going. So I could ask them if they've tracked that, and if so, I can get that number to you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Okay, thank you. Our next item of business is 4.02, letter to congressional delegation regarding changes to U.S. Department of Education. I'm going to ask Mr. Sailors if he would like to speak to this, as he is the chair of the advocacy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First of all, before we move forward in the conversation, there is one editorial recommendation that we would like to make on the document that you have in front of you on the second page, next to the last paragraph, starting with the words, "As our district administration and board of trustees continues, ... The last 5 words of that paragraph that states, "without a vote of Congress," we're recommending that that be removed and that sentence end with the wording, "by changes that are being made," period. So when the motion is made, it will be reflective of that editorial change. Okay? Did you get that, Nancy?
I did, sir, just take off those last.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. We would have updated board docs, but this is a conversation that came up this morning. A couple of trustees questioned those 5 words, and it makes no significant change to the intent of the letter, so we have no problem with that. Of course, the grammatical and spelling errors will be addressed before it's sent. Normally, we would have run this letter through advocacy to Cal and then to board. But considering the fact that this issue has arisen in the last couple of weeks and that we're on a tight time frame for our December schedule, this was about the only option to get this accomplished and out the door, so our members of the congressional delegations have this in their office staff's hands when they return after the holiday break. To give you background and rationale for this, you may remember several months ago when the Department of Education in D.C. was alluding verbally with very little detail that they would be block granting money to the states for a number of programs. And understanding that we have roughly $13 million a month that comes to this district from various sources at the federal level, we asked our congressional delegation at that time, was there any idea of how those guidelines were going to be established? It's one thing to send $13 million for Greenville County to Columbia, but there's an expectation that there's going to be a narrative on how this money is utilized, dealt with, spent, et cetera. Working with the delegation offices that encompass Greenville County, the answer to those questions have been historically, we don't know. They've asked at whatever level that they've asked, and it was, we don't know. So we put a pin in it and just started monitoring it. Then, as you may recall in the news in the last month, again, the Department of Education has indicated that they have established memorandums with other departments passing the utilization and the operation of a certain activity, for example, career and technology centers, and that instruction direction to the Department of Labor. They'll send IDEA to, I believe, Health and Human Services. Okay, but again, the question begged itself then, who in the Department of Labor has got the credentials and the mindset and the knowledge to make sure that what we're doing for career centers or any other deliverable is being accomplished appropriately? So then the conversation moved into, well, we're getting ready to start our budget process for next year. And we needed the questions answered for our purposes when it comes to developing a budget, especially with that infamous $13 million a month. So in consultation with the offices, again, that we represent that are listed here, Ms. Horton and Ms. Fisher and the chairman and I put together what you have in front of you is essentially a simple request asking our congressional representatives to seek the answers to those questions. It's one thing to have those requests come across from us verbally. Their indication is if they have something in written form, then they can go to whomever, wherever, and say, the largest district in my state is asking these questions, can we help them answer them? That's the methodology, the rationale, if you will, behind this document. It's essentially in putting in a little lengthier form than some might, the request of just, here are the areas of interest and concern we've got in order for us and every other district in the state to move forward with being able to plan their 26, 27 school year. They need some of these answers now. The State Department of Education needs these answers now. They have no clue what will be coming from DC to them for them to manage. And so we're trying to be proactive instead of reactive regarding this issue. So, Madam Chairman, on behalf of myself and Dr. Stiles and the members of the committee that have offered input on this, I'd like to make the motion that we accept this letter and have it sent to the board for final approval and then to the congressional delegations as listed.
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any questions on that, on the letter? Okay, hearing none, then we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And as an editorial, we will be sharing this with the two associations that you have listed on there, mainly so their staff can be knowledgeable of this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next order of business, if I have this right, is item 4.03. Reassess tax base and impact on millage. This is for discussion and does not require a motion. So is there any questions? Or who will present on that? I'm sorry.
We actually have a presentation where we've gone through and tried to answer each question. Ms. Fitzer's placing that up there, and I'll go through that
Okay, thank you.
briefly. And you should have a copy in, I keep referring to it as board docs, diligent community. And we found one error in it, and we've updated it so that it removed that error, corrected the error. I believe the way this is arranged, Ms. Switzer, I can't advance this. You'll need to.
Yes.
I can?
Sir.
Okay. You're going to have to do that for me or not. I don't have the device. So you will have to advance it for me. Okay. All right. So in response to the first question, the question came, were we, the board, told clearly that keeping millage flat in a reassessment year would raise tax bills? Yes, we believed there was a clear understanding by trustees that a stable millage rate year after year will result in additional revenue. We project the amount of tax collections needed to fund the capital improvement program based on an unchanged millage rate and the estimated growth in the mill value. This has been the district's practice for 26 years, or close to 27. In other words, we project what the auditor will set as a millage rate each year and base our recommendations to the board on that projection. This is very different from operating millage, which funds the general fund budget. GCS has direct control over that millage and can, with a high degree of accuracy, project the impact on individuals' tax bills when it's presented to the board during 3 public meetings, a workshop and 2 readings each spring. In contrast, the debt service budget and the accompanying GO bonds resolution are voted on each June, setting a maximum amount of bonded indebtedness. The bond sale does not occur until September and is dependent on the vagaries of the bond market. The auditor does not release the debt service millage applied to property tax mills until October. Again, always our goal to keep that millage flat. And we've stated repeatedly that the district's goal is to keep the debt service millage stable. We also have discussed on numerous occasions our estimates are based on projected growth in the value of a mill for debt service. It follows that a stable millage rate applied to a higher mill value would result in larger revenues. If your property value increases and the millage rate remains the same, your property tax bill will go up, much the same as if income tax rates remain stable and your salary increases on the revenue side, then your tax amount will go up, but the rate stays the same. The district does not know in a reassessment year whose property values will go up, which will go down, and by how much. We can only estimate using the best information available to us. We have referred to the district's goal of keeping debt service millage flat, an objective of debt service budgeting for 27 years. In multiple public meetings, most recently, the Long Range Facility Plan CIP presentation, March 11th, 2025, in the Committee of the Whole, and the final approval of that same budget on March the 25th at 6 p.m. at the regular board meeting, the capital budget approval on June the 24th at the regular board meeting, the bond sale approval following that on the agenda on the regular board meeting of June the 24th, and in the bond board workshop in September 9th of 25. At no time in any of those points did any trustee make a comment or ask a question that would indicate to us there was a lack of understanding of the effects on revenue of a flat debt service millage rate. In the Long Range Facilities Plan Capital Improvement presentation March the 11th, Ms. Stack and I affirmed that the amount of bonds needed is calculated using the static mill rate over a multi-year funding schedule. I addressed how funding from general fund balance and the building fund interest is used in conjunction with bond proceeds in the overall funding of the CIP. At the June 24th board meeting, in discussing the GO bond resolution, I stated what we're also watching is to make certain that we do not exceed the debt service millage, which is right now sitting at 48.5. We don't want the millage to go up. We want to make sure we have the funding for the project. Additionally, I noted our whole table of construction, renovation, and addition is based on an increase in mill value over time. I stated to the board when approving the best debt service budget, you're authorizing us to sell GO bonds at the projected amount needed to fund best payments in our long-range CIP. If you look at examples of a stable millage rate, and what this means to the district, and I'll list some other ones in a few minutes, but one of the most glaring examples is several years ago, there was consideration to move the construction of the new Fountain Inn High School forward, construct it sooner. It was already in a long-range facility plan for an occupancy date of a certain year, certain month. And there had been a small increase to debt service millage to accommodate because a high school is an extremely large construction expenditure. To accommodate that, the desire to move it just 4 years, the occupancy date, would have necessitated a $12.5 million increase that would have been in effect for 3 years. By leaving it in that long-range plan, where we carefully calculate what projects we put in which years, where they begin, where they end, and when they overlap, so we can rely on that static millage, it meant the difference between 12.5 and 4.5. That would have resulted in an $8 million increase for that 3-year period. This is just one example of the advantage of stability of millage. Why wasn't this explained to the public before bills went out? The utilization of stable millage, no millage increase, has been explained numerous times each year when we present the LRFP, the SIP, building fund budget, and the debt service budget. The district has consistently aimed for stable millage while continuing to meet the construction and renovation needs of the district as delineated in the long-range facilities capital improvement plan. This is stated and emphasized at times each year when we discuss, prior to board action on the long-range facility plan, SIP, the building fund budget, and the debt service budget. It has been the practice of the district for 27 years, which includes 6 reassessment years. In only one reassessment year since 1994 has the millage been reduced by the auditor. That was in 2020, which was then reflected in the 22 millage. Our communication has never been different over that time period, including consistently referencing stable debt service millage. In any year, debt service millage can be reduced based on the amount of tax collections necessary to fulfill bond obligations. In addition to the reassessment-related reduction in fiscal year 22, the auditor altered the GCS debt service millage rate on one occasion in a non-reassessment year. In FY25, 1 year ahead of reassessment, that millage rate was reduced by 2.5 mils or 5%. That reduction remains in effect, that relief having already been felt by the taxpayers. We received no questions related to the 2.5 mil reduction for FY25, which, as I noted, remains in place for FY26. Based on our analysis, using only the revenue figures available to us, we believe that the GCS debt service budget would not only keep us inside the already reduced millage, but it might be further reduced. At this time, with the limited information we possess about the calculations around the 11% rollback of the operating millage, we believe that a 0.5 to 1.5 debt service reduction might have been possible. But again, we don't have the information, all the information the auditor uses to determine that for us to confirm or negate that opinion. The GCS board voted on debt service budgets that included projected mill increases in FY 94, 95, 96, 98, and 99. I think you see a pattern there. It's when the district adopted the philosophy moving forward from 2000 to leave the rate stable, look at projects over a much more long-term view so that you avoid these continual increases that are described in what happened between 94 and 99, and you avoid the spike that I described if you moved Fountain Inn High School forward. Since that time, from 1999 until the present, there have been only 2 millage increases, 2014 and 2018. 2 increases, 2 decreases. You'll see there's a table that shows that going all the way back to 1994. Now, to think back and to picture what was going on in 1994 in this district regarding facilities. There were more than 500 portables in use. The district broke ground on a school and had to announce within a week that it did not have the money to construct that building. There were structural failures that had occurred in buildings in the district. We were still using window air conditioners in multiple locations in the district. We were number one in something we didn't want to be number one in. We were number one in consumption of energy per square foot in both unit of measure and cost. We were spending more per square foot heating and cooling our buildings than any other school district in the state. And there was no systemic funding plan for building replacement, systems replacement, roof, HVAC, doors, windows, hardware, any building component system. That continuing escalation of millage, still chasing something the district was unable to catch, all those needs, was insufficient. Hence the BEST program, where through an extremely innovative approach, the district was able to meet $1 billion worth of construction needs in about a 10 to 12 year window. Catching the district up, building for growth that was occurring. Basically, the revenue that the district was taking in at that point in the building fund was going to build new schools in communities where they didn't have a school, and they were growing. So it was prompting neglect of existing facilities. But that created equity throughout the county, equal facilities, no matter what school you went to and no matter what community it was, whether it's Slater Marietta or Fountain Inn or Berea or downtown Greenville or Greer or Blue Ridge, wherever you go to school, you have a comparable facility to attend. All of that grew out of the very first building plan that was done under the leadership, I believe, of Dr. Gordon at that time. And that's when the needs were expressed in such a way that there was no way that based on what the district was currently doing, that the district would ever catch up. So part of that discussion was get this done, and then what will it take so that we never have $1 billion building need at any one time. So two parts to that. One, have a long-term building plan, one that also includes maintaining what we have. So a refinement of what Dr. Gordon, under his leadership, was done, was conducted by BEST and INRI, which resulted in that program. While they were still in the midst of constructing BEST, we wrote the next long-range facility plan, utilizing that same concept, that we never have the district be in this position again. A tenet of that was looking long-term, starting in data projects, overlapping to get stability to expense and stability to revenue, so you don't have to keep raising and lowering millage. Recognizing that the value, the revenue associated with a mill that's static over time, unless you have an extreme economic downturn, will increase. But you don't have to keep putting the millage up and down. It will increase and help you to move along this path of doing things, addressing growth just ahead of need, and doing maintenance that extends life, and being able to respond to any system that needs to be replaced before it fails. So that next step in that occurred in 2006, 2007. The most recent iteration of that, though we do every year an annual update, we did a study a few years ago on all the buildings that fell outside of BEST. And you are well aware that right now we're we're constructing 2 of those buildings, 2 replacements. Northwest Middle School, which by assessment of its systems, its facility, and its structure, was in the worst condition of any building in the district. Followed closely behind by Bryson. Northwest is coming out of the ground right now, and Bryson is just about to come out of the ground. So making sure that we are addressing those things. You see here a graphical representation. You see those first 2 years when nothing happened but 1 year, it was stable, and you saw this steady increase. Then you see a plateau that lasts multiple years. Then you see 2 increases. The first one of which plateaus, then you see the second one plateau, and then you see it drop. That represents the decrease in 22 and the decrease in 25. The next question is, were rollback calculations ever shown to the board? We do not perform rollback calculations to establish the mill rate. By statute, that is the auditor's job. We do not have all the information used by that office to show to the board. Ms. Stack made multiple calls to the auditor's office and sent emails on September 5th, November 3rd, November 25th, and December 3rd to request clarifying information. Prior to establishing the millage rate and sending out annual tax notices, the auditor did not provide us with details that would confirm or deny our belief that it could be reduced slightly. We don't have the information to do that. We still do not have those numbers necessary, but we have been informed. We were informed on December 4th by the auditor that we would have them by December the 12th. The limited information provided by the auditor shows the millage remaining at 48.5. This results in a higher tax bill if one's assessed property value has increased. Had we had this information sooner, we might have been able to recommend a reduction, but it's possible that that wouldn't have happened. And it couldn't have happened without us being absolutely sure we could cover the amount required to pay back the bonds we issued. Because we cannot default on a bond obligation repayment. What specifically drove the debt service increase? Projects, bonds, something else. The capital improvement program is a summary schedule of projects and their projected costs that span a 10-year timeline. Some years we have out more than 10. We try to never have less than 10 out. If the recommended changes to the CIP require an adjustment to the static debt service mill rate, it will be included along with the project changes. The board approves all project additions and alterations before they're added to the SIP. Our approach is more long-term in nature, looking at annual and future years' impact in the scheduling and delivery of projects in order to meet needs and minimize dramatic fiscal impacts to taxpayers that may be short-term but far more significant. This is the current methodology for nearly 3 decades of funding the LRP SIP. The primary funding mechanism for the projects listed on the SIP, bond proceeds. We use a multi-year approach in computing the projected funded needing for the approved projects, including estimated project cost, growth in the debt service mill value, and millage rate. The projected costs are spread over multiple years determined by priority need and funding availability. That's what, when I talk about strategically placing these projects, that has a huge impact on maintaining stability. The district's overall CIP is based on the estimated increase in value of a mill of 1% to 2% annually and an increase of 3% to 5% in reassessment years. So conservative estimation provides safeguards that revenue is not being overestimated. Now, we temper that every year when we see what it brought in the year before. This involves strategic scheduling of new projects over multiple years to address growth in a just ahead of need manner, minimizing any use of portables. You know, one of the greatest concerns with portables years ago is they just weren't quite up to the same standard as the building. Now the big issue with portables is they are much less secure than being in the main building. So again, it went from 500 in use to we have right now fewer than a dozen in use. Again, I gave you the example of looking back at the original construction of Fountain Inn High School. Considerable interest in advancing that, but that advance would have bumped the millage increase 12.5 mils versus 4.5. The board supported that recommendation. The date remained as set in the CIP, and the additional increase of 8 mils was not imposed on the taxpayers. From 2000 to 2013, CIP funding used the same mill rate. Based on board action to approve adjustments to the CIP, the funding needed required an adjustment to the mill rate. That was the case in 2014 and 18, increases in the mill rate. Any change to the static mill rate are approved by the board. Increases. Annually, including for FY26, GCS used the static millage rate and estimated growth to project the amount of tax collections needed to ensure we continue to maintain our facilities, extend the lifespans of our buildings and equipment, and meet the needs of growth. Tax revenues increases resulting from growth of the tax base as the mill rate remains static. In a reassessment year, that becomes more complicated due to having limited information on the overall increase in the tax base. As stated previously, the SIP includes a conservative increase that is greater than non-reassessment years. In any year, the project cost updates approved by the board affect the multi-year SIP schedule as a whole and not just the year of approval. Bonds are sold in the fall of each year to meet the current approved funding, and they have to be sold in the fall to generate revenue that meets our cash flow needs. If funding is available, projects can be accelerated on the timeline based on need and to offset escalating cost. For example, when you approve moving Donaldson Center forward by 2 years, that resulted in a savings to the estimated cost of that project of $4.7 million. The last 5-year period, construction inflation, I believe, was an average of about 8%. And that included 1 year where construction inflation was over 16%. So moving projects forward results in cost increase avoidance. For reassessment years, in order to gain as much information as we can, finance staff attends presentations by the auditor, requests information from the auditor's office, and surveys other counties about their reassessment results. Multiple scenarios for using different reassessment and growth increases are calculated using the static debt service mill rate. FY22, the prior reassessment funding year, the value of the debt service mill increased by right at 15%. The current reassessment funding year, the estimated value increased by 17%. The debt service value for reassessment years 11 and 16 increased by 5.4 and 3.9% respectively. At the request of trustees, a board workshop on bond financing was held on September 9th, 25. The presentation included information on the role of the auditor, bond funding, bond structure, and the effect of debt service millage. You'll see those slides. I won't read each line on it because some of these points have already been made. If you look on this next slide, draw your attention to the third bullet. GCS's financial advisor has explained the process as follows. GCS utilizes an approach similar to most school districts in the state in computing a multi-year debt service millage requirement. First, defining a static debt service millage rate and computing the future cash flow, including mill value growth. Second, defining a capital expenditure needs cash flow, including inflation. Lastly, comparing the two, income and expenditure cash flow amounts to achieve parity. So next slide regarding structure of bonds, creative and strategic. And that simply emphasizes the importance of a multi-year approach to it. The next one simply talks about the obligation of the auditor to levy debt service annually. Now, the auditor, in carrying out his responsibilities, he is focused on 1 year, meeting the bond obligations for the entity, no matter what entity that is, whether it's the county, the cities, the fire district, whatever entity that is. What bond obligation do they have? what millage must be levied to meet that legal obligation. We're looking at 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, trying to avoid any increase and operate off a static mill rate. In a requested board workshop on January the 16th, 24, a presentation on the debt service fund included the following information. I won't read the whole thing, but I would point to you the first bullet. Projections use a steady debt service millage rate. Question number 5. Did we, the board, approve any items that would push debt up that sharply in a single year? The board has approved every capital budget line item, and all changes are included in your board material. Every year at the June board meeting, the GO bond resolution and the debt service budget are presented to the board using the projected information. Each of these documents uses a static mill rate. The district provides this information to the board through presentations at public meetings and posts the information online in advance that is accessible both to the board and the public. As stated previously, in any year, the project cost updates approved by the board affect the multi-year SIP schedule as a whole and not only the year of approval. For example, in FY25, the board approved updates in January of 25, March of 25, and June of 25. Can the Finance Office provide a detailed breakdown of all debt-related changes from last year to this year? And that, I believe, was answered in the preceding question. Who ultimately decides not to reduce millage? Well, the auditor does. But again, to emphasize what I said earlier, the auditor is focused on this annual meeting of the legal obligations of debt service for all the entities for which he sets millage. We're looking what's the effect long-term, down the road, ensuring projects are paid for, not have these spikes up and down, and not have to increase the millage rate. The next one has to do with why wasn't the impact spelled out in the budget or debt plan was presented, and we believe that's adequately addressed in questions 1 and 2. How does the district plan to keep something like this from surprising the board again? Well, these questions indicate, or this question indicates, that some number of trustees lack clarity around this issue. Well, we'll work to try to make sure that there is no lack of clarity around the issue. However, throughout the meetings and the workshops over the past 9 months about LRP SIP, the building fund budget, and bond financing, no trustee has made any comment or asked any question regarding the relationship between the impact of maintaining a stable millage rate on property that will collectively increase in value. That, coupled with receiving no questions from trustees when debt service millage was reduced in 25 by 2.5 mills, which is included in the ACFR and was stated during the June board meeting, indicated to us there was a clarity of understanding. However, we're open to any suggestions from trustees about improving that clarity. Additionally, it's our plan to schedule another board workshop or committee of the whole presentation directly related to debt service and bond issuance prior to the LRP SIP. As stated above, we're open to any suggestions that would improve understanding of these complex topics. Should we expect this level of debt and the tax consequences to continue next year? Absent direction from the board, it's our intent to maintain the 3 decades practice of stable debt service millage, to fund new facilities for replacement of aging buildings, to meet population growth, and to ensure proper maintenance to maximize building longevity and continually seek to reduce operating cost. You may recall that until this past year, we had not increased the general fund energy budget since 2008 because of investments from the capital budget to replace lighting, HVAC control systems. We have consistently decreased energy usage, offsetting the numerous utility company rate increases. Below is the updated table of projects reflecting the approvals done in June, showing the intent through 35. So absent a different direction, we intend to maintain that 3 decades-long practice. Are there more debt-driven increases coming that the board hasn't been briefed on? One we view an increase is if you move the millage rate, that to us is an increase. The board and public have a long-range facilities plan document accessible on the community portal and the GCS website. So that's preceding chart is available to anybody who wants to look at it. What long-term plan is in place to keep debt growth under control? The long-term plan has always been to maintain a stable debt service millage rate. Stable millage is the mechanism in place to prevent spikes in tax bills or continuing millage increases by developing a 10 to 12-year plan and the strategic placement of projects in that time frame, allowing us to rely on natural revenue growth to fund estimated cost, offset inflation, and prevent jumps in debt that could result in huge 1 to 5 year increases in millage rate. Construction in places over the past 5 years has averaged 8.4% annually. As I noted earlier, including 1 year, it was 16%, significantly outpacing the overall inflation rate, which supports the practice of accelerating project timelines to avoid cost increases. The most important goal of sustaining stable millage is to ensure that we continue to maintain the facilities we have, to extend the lifespan of our buildings and equipment, and to meet the needs of growth. Doing so avoids a situation such as we had in the late 90s, when years of deferred maintenance, lack of planning resulted, despite annual debt service millage increase, in all but 1 year between 94 and 99, in $1 billion facilities backlog. Since the early 2000s and the institution of the BEST program, each GCS board has remained committed to this goal. This involves strategic scheduling of new projects over multiple years to address growth in a just ahead of need manner, minimizing any use of portables and providing for the necessary maintenance to extend facility life. If you're a homeowner, as a reminder, you pay no taxes for school operations on your primary residence. However, in a reassessment year, all other entities to which you pay taxes will have a rollback of the millage rate for operating funds on your primary residence, as well as other properties. For school district taxes, there will be an 11% reduction in millage on property other than your owner-occupied residence, e.g. vehicles, businesses that are not operating under a FELO, rental property, and second homes, which will result in a reduced tax bill directly related to the school district. Also, the levy on millage is the mechanism for action regarding taxing. An elected body takes action to increase or decrease revenue. The auditor places a mill rate in effect when an elected body makes a revenue decision that will drive a millage increase. But in terms of the operating budget, it's extremely easy for us to reliably forecast, particularly on a conservative side forecast, what that value will be, what revenue it'll bring in. That concludes our response to those questions. And if there are follow-up questions or other items, we'll be glad to either try to clarify them today or get that information for you.
That's a lot. Thank you. Ms. Brett, you have a question?
All right, so Dr. Royster, debt millage and operating millage are two completely separate things, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So the operating millage is what we speak of when we're talking about the budget and whether or not we're raising millage and that sort of thing, is that right?
When you all do the general fund budget,
Right.
you'll recall workshop, first reading, second reading, and we will have in there our recommendation, which might or might not include a tax increase. This year it didn't. If it does, based on our knowledge of the value of a mill, if there were an increase there, we would say to you, we would request or recommend an increase of 1.5 mils, for example, whatever the amount would be.
Right. And then as far as debt millage is concerned, this is something that just builds upon itself, and we never actually vote on raising debt millage other than that kind of comes with the bonds that we vote on. Is that correct?
If the bonds you voted on were to cause that millage to increase, one, if we could at all avoid it, we wouldn't recommend you increase it. We'd try to figure some other way around it.
Okay.
If we weren't able to do so, like the 2 years we mentioned, so we went from 99 to like 2014, somewhere along in there, before we ever recommended a millage increase. Then we had 2, and you saw those charted out. In those years, we specifically came to the board and said, if we're going to fund this plan, it will necessitate a millage increase. The only decreases that have ever occurred, I believe there are 2 of them, only one of which was in a reassessment year. The auditor looked at our bond sale and said, can drop the millage for this bond sale because the reduced millage will meet the required payoff for the bonds. Now, that's kind of me speaking for him, but I don't think he would, maybe he would choose to say it a different way, but I don't think he would. Because the decision of the bond sale and the repayment of the bond drives the millage. So we have always approached, having had this philosophy for, like I said, 30 years, we approach there is no change if you keep if you're keeping a steady debt service millage. And we would certainly would bring attention to you if there were any reason we believed we ought to recommend an increase in that millage. And the ability to do these projects out over and forecast out 10 years worth of projects relies on us knowing that that value will increase over time. And that increase, hopefully it's offsetting inflation. But like in that 1 year, it would not have offset inflation. But generally speaking, it does. It also accommodates for some, it's very hard for planning and demographics to project population out 10 years, though they do it. But the further out you go, the harder it is to project. One of the things that's occurring right now, our population growth is like 0, except in the very southern part of the county. So it's hard to predict that would have happened. That this one little, it's not all that little, small area, geographically it's pretty big, pretty much that around Fountain Inn, it is growing contrary to everything else in the county. So kind of spikes like that is a little bit harder to predict. Further out you go, the harder to predict. But it has seemed over these years that the best approach is a flat millage rate that does away with these spikes, and nobody wants their tax rate to go up 12.5 mils in 1 year.
Are the 2 millages separated on the taxes? Like,
Yes.
It says debt millage and it says operating millage on there?
Yes, it shows on your tax bill. Now, it's not the most clear in the world by the way it's represented. I think we've probably had this discussion before. So, some counties show, here's the school district operating millage and what it would cost you on your home. And right underneath it, it shows the tax credit that resulted from Act 388, which basically subtracts the whole of that number. Right there where you can easily see it. The way the tax bills in our county are set up, you have to look over here in this column to see the offset for your home. Then you'll see debt service millage, and the debt service millage will be right there under the operating millage. That's the only amount you pay on your home. Now, your car tax bill, as you'll recall, it looks a little bit different because on your car, you will pay operating taxes to the school district. Car, boat, truck, motorcycle, airplane, anything like that. If you had a business that didn't have some kind of FELO, then you're going to pay both to the operating side of the school district and to the debt service side of the school district. If you're any kind of 6% property. So maybe not even necessarily, we think of it in terms of we like to think of a business as being like a retail store or a pharmacy or a machine shop. But if you own, say, a rental house, That's a business. That's a 6% tax rate. That gets taxed for operating and debt service.
And it was at 388, that has no effect on the debt millage, is that right?
Act 388 does not affect debt millage, that's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cochran?
Thank you. In his email that he was kind enough to send us a copy of, Mr. Case, the Greenville County Auditor, prominently mentions the amount of $55 million at least 2 different times. However, in Dr. Royster's long email to the board on December 5th that was written in response to the email from Mr. Case, I don't think the $55 million is ever mentioned. Also, in the very lengthy response that, well, not necessarily response, I don't guess, to this presentation that we just listened to, I don't recall the $55 million being mentioned at all. So I'm wondering if Mr. Case seemed to feel it was very important. I'm wondering if someone can explain the significance of that $55 million to us, what that represents.
I believe that's contained in your board information from the debt service line item in June, and from the building fund line item in June, and from the amendments that you made to the long-range facility plan that included each of those projects. And that was to bring expense up to the amount of revenue that's being generated by the stable debt service millage, and pulling projects forward, like I gave you the example of Donaldson Career Center.
It seems to me, and again, maybe perhaps I'm not seeing this correctly, but it seems to me from trying to study this for a while, basically that was a $55 million tax increase on the citizens of Greenville County. And that's what I take from what Mr. Case has written in his email. So is that not the case? That is, and he also goes on to say that that's a 29% increase over the prior year's debt, as I understand it. So is that not a $55 million tax increase that has to be paid by the taxpayers of Greenville County?
I believe our increase in project expenditure was 17%, Ms. Stack, is that correct? And again, we didn't add any project that you all didn't vote on, along with the amounts of those projects, and along with the total amount that differs from the amount from last year.
I have no problem with saying that we voted for it. Apparently we did.
Yes, sir.
My question is it a tax increase, $55 million, or is it not?
It is a revenue increase related to maintaining the same millage rate, which is the construct of the entire debt service budget, that over time, the value of that stable millage rate will result in additional revenue to prevent doing this. I think that was pretty clearly stated.
I think, does the money come from the taxpayers, or is it magically appearing from somewhere else?
I think you know the answer to that, Mr. Cochran. All the money that we use ultimately comes from the taxpayer.
That I've been very surprised by, so I'm no longer quite sure, honestly. It's mentioned in here several times, I think, in the email that you sent to us, and was mentioned earlier here.
Mm-hmm.
By law, the county auditor sets the debt service millage each year, not the school district. And again, it's repeated. As stated, it is the auditor's responsibility to annually set the millage. So was there no communication from the district? Did no one at the district ever make that request that the millage, the debt service millage, be left at the same rate this year? Did no one make that request? Did he just do that on his own? Or did somebody from the district request that it be left at that rate?
All right, number one, the debt service millage is still at the same rate.
Right, correct. I'm aware of that.
He makes a decision based on the amount of the bond sales for the revenue necessary to repay them, whether that millage rate should go up, down, or remain the same. Unlike operating fund millage.
So there was no request made by anyone at the district to Mr. Case for that millage rate to be left the same.
Millage rate was left the same, Mr. Cochran.
I'm aware of that. The way I take it, you're saying he made that decision.
He did make that decision based on the information that we sent him regarding the bonds that we issued.
We did not request that.
I'm not, I guess I don't really know how to answer your question. I believe I've answered it. We sent a request based on the recommendation we made to you all, that you all approved, to keep the revenue related to the steady mill rate. So we sold bonds in keeping with that goal. Those bonds obviously require a certain amount to be repaid. The cost of the bond plus the interest being paid out. So when that information is transmitted to the auditor then knows whether the millage rate should go up, down, or stay the same. We predicated all the actions we recommended to you all that you voted on keeping the millage rate the same. Yes, that results in more revenue. That was made clear in every presentation done about millage, about building fund, and in the 2 different workshops regarding the same.
Yeah, speaking of those workshops, one of them was on September the 9th. If I'm not mistaken, we approved these bonds in June, so I'm not quite sure how that would have helped us. But the other one was, at this point, basically a month away from being 2 years ago when we had that discussion. I think that workshop was on the 16th of January, you said of 24, anyway, in January of 24. When was the most recent time that we moved money from the general fund to the debt fund, and how much money did we transfer at that point?
Stack, do you have that in front of you, or we need to send that to them? When's the most recent time we used general fund balance to go to the building fund? I believe it was last January, February, March.
January 2025 was the first request in 2025, FY25, for the turf project, turf project.
Do we know how much money was transferred?
Let's see.
Seems like we had a situation where within just a month or so we had some potential cost overruns due to, I think it was questions of tariffs and also, other things, but and we turned around then and infuse more money into those projects.
We have for multiple years recommended to the board the utilization of general fund balance to fund non-recurring costs. It could be inflation associated with building projects. It could be added projects. It could be any of a number of things. That's been a common practice because it's generally a sound fiscal practice to utilize non-recurring fund balance for non-recurring items.
So if we do have a short-term issue and a little bit of a cost overrun, we, assuming there is the money there, and at the moment I think there's way more than what the state requires in that general fund budget, we certainly have that ability to transfer that over if the board desires to do so.
There is no state requirement for a fund balance. The generally accepted accounting practice, I believe, it used to be like 8%, Robin, now it's double that. And your policy is what percent?
The policy for the board is 8.33%, but best practice recommendations from the accounting, GFOA, ASBO, best practice is 2 months or 16.3.
But there is no state requirement. Now, I think the state would be concerned if you didn't have some sort of fund balance.
How many fewer students do we have this year than last year?
About 1,500, I believe.
And we expect that trend is going to continue.
We're looking at that right now.
So at the moment, we have declining enrollment, and again, 1,500, I would take that to be about 2%, close to it. But yet, we have $55 million more that we have put into that fund. It seems to me like, as you have stated, I didn't quite, I guess I was just dumb enough, I didn't quite realize this, but we knew we were going to get probably tens of millions more dollars by doing this the way we did. Seems to me like we could have verbalized that in the interest of transparency and explained that to everyone and have said, guys, here's the result of your vote. If you vote this way, it is going to likely create tens of millions dollars more in debt. It seems to me that words can be used to illuminate things and to increase understanding. They can also be used to obscure and deceive. Just as one quick example here of that, I think there is a statement that says, that we use often, that says, you do not pay taxes, basically, on your owner-occupied home to the operations of Greenville County Schools. True statement, apparently. However, when the general public hears that, there is the perception out there that they are saying that we're not paying taxes to the school district on our property. And of course, that is not true, because that is going to the other side, to the debt service. And in this case, again, total, it seems to me like $55 billion more. And I think that should have been mentioned back there when we were having discussions. It should have been brought to our attention that, hey, here's the effect of what you're going to do. And of course, we can say, well, but you all were told that the millage rate was going to remain flat. Well, along those lines, just as one example, now if we go back to where we approved those bonds back in June, the resolution, this is just one part of it, I think it's at the beginning, authorizing the issuance and sale of not exceeding $215 million general obligation bonds of the School District of Greenville County, South Carolina, fixing the form and details of the bonds, authorizing the superintendent of the school district to determine certain matters relating to the bonds, providing for the payment of the bonds and the disposition of the proceeds thereof, providing for the issuance of bond anticipation notes and other matters relating thereto. Again, I don't see anything about the millage rate there anywhere. We, in good faith, believed, because we had been basically, I think, at least there was the general perception that Greenville County Schools not raising taxes this year. A lot of people are happy about that. But again, when I read something like that, I mean, how is that really going to click in my mind that, the millage rate's the same, so all of a sudden there's a lot more money here than what I thought there would be. It just doesn't, again, I don't think there's any reasonable expectation that things there, and that thing's 30 pages long. I suspect I've read the vast majority of it. At this point, I don't quite recall if I read every word of it. But again, I certainly don't recall any explanation there that would lead me to believe that we were going to be raising an extra $55 million at this point. And what I would really like to see, I know that before we requested a meeting to have some answers on this stuff, I know that you had sent in your email there from December the 5th. And basically it said that we remain committed to transparency, and we plan to share all this in a January Cal meeting if we have the information and all the information time. As I've already indicated to the district, I would really like to see this back on the January Cal agenda. Like I said, I don't necessarily have a big issue with the fact that if there's a really good reason, and you've went to great depths to try and explain part of what you feel the reason is, for us to have the extra $55 million, that's really not so much the issue to me. The issue to me is that $55 billion, I think we should have come out in public and we should have explained that, hey, we think we're going to need $55 billion more, and it's going to come to us naturally, basically, because we're not going to have to raise the millage, and here's what we're going to use it for, and here's why we think it's really, really important. But again, there was nothing to that effect. I think it was, I think most people that know several of us here on the board would not really imagine if we realized that we were talking about a $55 million tax hike, that we would have not had a spirited discussion about should we do that or should we not. And yet that was, in my opinion, somewhat denied us. And I certainly don't, I would say practically nobody, except for a very few individuals out there in Greenville County, have any idea of how this works. And when we say we're not going to raise the debt millage, that generally, I think to the general public, that's like, oh great, taxes aren't going up. But of course, that's not the way it works. What I would really like to see in that January Cal meeting, I would like us to invite Mr. Case, the county auditor. I would like him to be present, not just in the crowd, but as an actual member of our discussions, a full participant, and kind of get his view on these things as well. And I would suggest, as far as maybe keeping this from happening in the future, you know, we have, as you had alluded to, we have all those meetings back in April and June related to the general fund budget. I think probably be a good idea, at least for the time being, we should have one of those meetings, say in August, and go back over everything related to these bonds and all the ins and outs and all the implications. And again, instead of just saying at that point that here's this 30-page resolution, it says we need this much money because that's what we thought we really needed just to basically take care of our obligations. And then we later find out that, hey, there's some extra money involved there. Thank you very much.
Cochran, I'll just speak to a little bit of that if I might. I struggle to understand where you believed that additional funding for the building projects that you all approved, where you believed that additional funding was coming from. And to your point, there was a bond workshop in September. That's a little bit after the fact, but the one in January was not. And we have 4 years ago, correct? I'm sorry. 2 years ago, January? I thought you said it was 2024. There was a bond workshop in January. I'm sorry, what's that? About a year and a half ago. Then there was one in September. But we have consistently messaged every time we've discussed this topic of leaving the millage rate the same. So I struggle to understand how one would not align the fact that revenue went up if you leave the millage rate the same. Revenue in the general fund goes up if you leave the millage rate the same. And let me say real quickly, real clearly, and unequivocally, there is no one in this administration seeking to deceive you or any member of the public. If we don't have an appropriate lack of understanding, then we need to find out where that lack of understanding is occurring. But when we present this information, and we present it over and over and over, in generally the same way,
and we don't receive any question or comment that would indicate that a board member or board members do not understand it, then I'm not sure how we would know that we need to look for a different way to explain or clarify this for people. But no one is seeking to deceive anyone. And I want to be real clear about that.
That may not be the intent, but I think that's what's happened. Certainly, several of us were deceived. How many people on this board?
You were deceived or you didn't understand?
How many people realized on this board that they were paying for that they were voting on a $55 million tax increase? I don't think very many. I don't think that hardly anybody understood that. So yes, I would say basically that we were, again, maybe partly we deceived ourselves. I think we were allowed to deceive ourselves. That's what I think.
How is it I'm supposed to know what you do or don't know if you don't ask or comment on it?
I think, again, if we can make a 11-page, whatever that is, response to a few questions, along with this 30-page when we did the bond resolution, the general obligation bonds resolution, when that was sent out, it could have been easily explained. There could have been an email to us. Guys, here's the implications of what you are doing, and this is how it's going to work. And yes, it basically is going to raise taxes. And then we could have had the discussion. Should we do that? Should we not? But no, I certainly did not understand that, and I think there's quite a few more people here that did. If anybody knew they were voting for a tens of million dollar tax increase, I certainly never heard word of it.
Excuse me, can I interrupt? Sorry. We will need to extend. Without objection, 15 more minutes. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, if I may ask for a point of personal privilege as well while we're in the middle of this, if the commentary by Mr. Cochran or anybody else on this board is going to continue to question the professionalism of the superintendent, I make a motion that we move into executive session because that moves into a contractual issue between the superintendent and this board. If we're going to continue this, we need to do it behind closed doors. Otherwise, it stops.
Thank you. Next question is from Ms. Doolin.
Some of the frustration might be that when we talk about our operating budget, we're given a lot of examples like how it will affect car taxes or how it will affect a flower shop when Ms. Bush was still here. And we spend so many meetings talking about it, and it's relatively, I mean, compared to this, it's relatively a small amount, sometimes $2 million or $5 million. And a lot of time is given to that to make sure that everyone is on the same page and we all know. But when it came to this one, or to selling these bonds, I just don't think that we all have the same understanding that approving the bond resolution was going to create an enormous tax increase because, at least for me, I thought, well, it's a reassessment year. The millage goes down in a reassessment year. I just always assumed that. And it went down for operating. Our operating millage went down 17 points, but still reflected an increase in revenue. So I wasn't under the impression, I did not understand that keeping it, I didn't know the plan was to keep it the same, to keep the debt service millage the same. I really assumed it's a reassessment year. It'll go down to whatever it needs to be to meet the demands the bonds created. I went back and watched that meeting from June where this was approved, and there was no roll call vote, but the vote wasn't unanimous. So I think in the future, I would like to just go ahead and ask that all of those votes have a roll call vote because it wasn't very clear to me. Also, this wasn't brought to, the bonds resolution and all of these weren't brought to a CAL. It was only at our final, like at our June board meeting. So I think if we were going to have more discussion about it, maybe it should have been done at Cal. So maybe we can do that in the future as well. My last question is going forward, there's nothing to do, it's impossible to change the millage rate at this point. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. So to back up kind of to the first part of what you said, that's true. We use all those examples, and they're easy for us to forecast because we're talking about a known value. So, and you may remember in hearing us talk about operating millage, particularly relates to cars. Unless you buy a new car, a newer car, or you buy another car, like you got a young driver and you buy them a car, you add something to your personal fleet of cars, then this will have this effect. What we can't ever forecast is if you go do one of those things. We don't know how much that will affect. So if you continue to have what you currently have, now this is in a non-reassessment year, then we know how to project that. If we got, and we do the businesses too, if they're pure 6% return, because we can project those as well. We also know on operating in a reassessment year, that millage will get rolled back so that we get the same amount we got the year before, collectively the same amount. Some people's taxes will go up, most people's taxes will go down in a reassessment year. Here's the problem with forecasting debt service the same way. We can forecast it on what it brings in one year to the next. What we don't know in time for the bond sale is what's going to be the total increased value of assessed property. So to your last point about it's too late to do something about it this year, if we needed to make an adjustment or you all desired to make an adjustment, we could make the adjustment in the coming year. Does that make sense? Because we got to have the money sitting there to pay the bonds that we have to sell early because it funds cash flow for the whole year for all the projects. So, and certainly it's not an issue. I don't know of any issue. It only changes by like 14 days, our look at revenue to present the bond information at the CAL and then go over it again in the June board meeting. That seems like a very doable thing. It's just harder to model debt service, we'll have to try to figure out, is there some way to model debt service in a reassessment year? But all this stuff is obviously confusing, but we can only know if we're not clear on something, if we get questions or comments that cause us to believe that it's not clear. I understand it's all confusing, but I think those are certainly good suggestions.
Mr. Sailors?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Let me shift gears just a moment so we have a understanding of why this is addressed, and that goes back to the long-range facilities plan. One of the operating principles that I've always understood in my 24 years of service on this board, I really say that, is the fact that I do understand what this process is. Because early on, I paid attention to the fact that this is a puzzle with a lot of pieces to it, how we have to handle financing our schools. But if we lower the millage rate on our debt service intentionally, then Dr. Royster, isn't it correct to believe that the work, the 10 years of construction projects, those will have to be adjusted? And in turn, we run the risk of paying more money in construction inflation than the rollback that we would have generated in that given conversation.
Yes, sir, that's possible.
So although today it sounds good, we should have rolled it back, there's a potential negative to that one conversation that in the future we need to be mindful of.
Yes, sir, that relates to what we said about we're looking at this long-term view of stability of debt service millage to fund like 10 or 12 years worth. And obviously it's the auditor's statutory responsibility just to make sure that that 1 year's bonds get paid off. And that's, I would assume, what the auditor looks at.
Okay, and in answer to one of Mrs. Doolin's questions, you did answer a question I had. As for the suggestion of including Auditor Case in the meeting as an active participant, let me ask you this. In the correspondence that I'm assuming Robin has had with the auditor's office, have all of your questions been answered as of today?
No, sir.
Okay. I vividly remember this similar issue a few years ago, and we had to take the auditor's office to court because the auditor's office at that time believed that what they were doing was different than what the statute requires. Okay? And if I remember correctly, Judge Few spanked them pretty hard because their effort versus the statute requirement and our needs were diametrically different. Am I correct in my recollection of that?
So
2008, I believe, Mr. Webb.
2008, the court had to address and clarify for the county auditor Act 388 as it compares to special legislation that was previously in place, and clarified that Act 388 should apply as compared to the prior specific local legislation, and ruled in favor of the district's request.
Okay. So if we want information from the auditor's office, then it needs to be timely, correct, and well. And if we want to engage the auditor, we need to do that staff to staff, which is the proper process, and not bring the auditor or any other elected official in here to participate in a conversation, running the risk of turning that into a circus, because I've yet to see an invitation from county council to include anybody from the school system on any discussions they have that affects us. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Leventis Wells.
Thank you. Dr. Royster, I'm going to submit my questions to you. But I think the lesson we learned here is when board members come on and we are focusing on millage increases and we don't vote for it, and then our constituents ask us and we're going, no, your taxes aren't going to go up. And I think this $55 million kind of thing, wherever it came from, whether we understood it or we didn't, I think the bottom line was we just probably thought we were not increasing taxes. And then we come to find out that there's this pot of money for wherever it is that we did not understand about and did not focus on. I think that's where the questions have raised or were raised. But with that being said, we know now to question these things, and we know now that when we vote on a millage increase, or we're not going to have a millage increase, but we're going to give these teachers pay increases and bus drivers and everyone, that's what our focus is. I don't think we've looked at the behind-the-scene kind of things. But I think now the element of, in law enforcement, I've always learned this, the element surprise will get you every time. And so I think that's where this all stemmed from. But with that being said, I'm going to submit my questions to you. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else I missed for questions? Ms. Goodwin Caldwell, do you have a question?
Just a comment, because it's a reassessment year and property values go up, but we are staying the same. At our millage, of course, the revenue is going to go up, but the communication between county council in the school district has not been there as far as the auditor's office is concerned, because he didn't answer her question. She's been asking them for a while to get that information so we could get the correct information. But am I right in saying that the auditor could have decreased the amount of the millage where that it wouldn't affect our tax notices?
The auditor could have increased, left the same, or decreased it based on what he estimates it will take to make the bond payments. Now, twice, he has reduced it. Once 2.5 mils last year. So just last year, the millage was reduced 2.5 mils, and in 21, 22, 1.5,
1.1.
1.1 mils.
So he's throwing out that number, and he could have decreased it where we didn't have this extra 55 million.
Well,
It's on the auditor.
no, he could only decrease it if the amount he put on, the millage rate he put on, would generate the revenue to meet our legal obligation to pay back the bonds. So our question has not been answered because we don't have all the other details. Even after decreasing the tax rate 2.5 mils last year, the actual millage rate, was there any more room to have gone a little bit less this year? We don't know, because there is information related to rolling back millage and reassessment that neither the school district nor any of the other taxing entities in the county, to our knowledge, possess. It's information that we don't collect, we don't have, we don't know. And that's what we have asked for, and have every reason to believe Mr. Case said he would send that he will send that, but it is.
But it has been assessed now, right? I mean, he's
Yes, it's
sending
been,
it saying
the tax
that it's
bills
been-
by law have to be issued before the end of October.
So he knows how much money we need to pay back our bonds, but now we've got 55 million over that, and he is putting it on us when it should be on him.
No, we sold bonds that equal to whatever the total was, and how much more was it this year than last year?
55 million.
55 million. We sold those bonds, and it will require, according to his calculations, the same millage that we had last year to bring in the repayment of those bonds.
But that's not true.
We don't.
He said that it would require that.
Yes, that's what he has said, based
But now
on
he's
calculations he has that we don't have.
So now he's saying that we have 55 extra million.
No, he's not saying that, no ma'am.
Well, what is he saying?
Well, right now, he's not really saying anything.
I know he's not saying anything. and see-
All
and-
he said
but-
is, hey, I
Because
know
I
you,
don't want the public to think that it's our doing
I know
of
that you,
this
I know that you
when it's out of
got,
our hands.
I know that you have to pay back this much money. And by my looking at all the assessment information,
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we still have a question or two, so I will extend for another 15 minutes without objection. Thank you.
yes ma'am, by looking at all the reassessment information, your millage needs to stay the same as last year to pay back these bonds. The bonds have already been sold, the debt payment's already established, we'll pay it off during the year.
Okay.
So hopefully that clarifies your thinking on that.
Public, no, it is not on us, it's on that county auditor. Thank you. I'm not talking.
Excuse me. There'll be no comment from the audience. Everybody had an opportunity to sign up to speak. This is board time, and let's be respectful of our speakers, regardless of whether or not you agree or disagree. Thank you.
Ms. Doolin.
I look back at the minutes from June of 2025, and all 12 of us were present for that meeting. If you want to look back at the agenda, it was item 5.11 was the bonds resolution. Since we have cameras, it's easy to go back and look. It wasn't a unanimous vote, but everyone here did vote. So contrary, it does fall on us that that was the bonds resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so I have I'm sorry, Ms. LaVentus Wells, go ahead. No, go. Oh, go, move on, okay. I have a small comment. I think there's a general feeling, based on what Ms. LaVentus Wells and others have said, is that really our concern is to not raise taxes and to, get teachers' salary increases and that type of thing. And there's maybe some confusion with some terms. I mean, there's millage, there's taxes, there's revenues, there's bonds. It's quite a bit of, we're in the weeds here, quite a bit of information. And really, I feel personally that I need sort of a tutorial as to, okay, this is what's going to happen. And, it is possible that this year we're going to have to raise, and this is why. But I'm understanding we're not raising millage.
No.
So that's
No,
good.
You all did not raise millage, either operating or debt service. And the debt service millage will roll back because of the statutes that govern reassessment. It will roll back, and it's rolling back 11%.
Yes, operating.
Operating
Yes.
millage. And you didn't act to increase the debt service millage. So what was put on there, which is the same as last year, is to pay off the bonds. And with the exception of the 2 years the board voted to do more than that, for 27 years, that debt service millage has stayed the same. Except for those 2 years, the board voted to increase it. And the 2 years that the auditor looked at the debt payments and said, it doesn't have to be this much to meet those payments. So that's 27 years worth of, that's what we've been doing.
Okay, so we have $55 million extra?
No, it's in those projects you approved. You don't have any extra.
Okay, but.
It's paying for
But we
those
have
projects.
we have to find $55 million? Is this the,
No, that millage will bring in that $55 million.
that millage?
Yes.
Okay. From the reassessment of homes?
For the reassessment of everything that's reassessed. So commercial would be reassessed as well.
So we have nothing to do with reassessment?
Nope.
Okay. So we're not raising millage?
The assessor conducts the actual assessment of property. The auditor determines millage rates related to the statutes regarding the implications of reassessment.
Okay. I think I'm good for a minute. All right, is there anyone else? That's it? Okay, that concludes the administration section, and I'll send it back to Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Middleton. Our next matter of business is 5.01, Building and Grounds, and Mrs. LaVentus Wells will be chairing this section. Ms. LaVentus Wells, you have the floor.
Thank you. At this time, we do not have a recommended motion about facilities projects update. However, Colonel Carlin is right over there, and does anyone have any questions? Mr. Sailors.
Colonel, what's the design completion status for the new Bryson Middle?
We are in preliminary design right now.
So
We do not have a conceptual design laid out, but we're in preliminary.
mid-26?
Sir?
Mid-26-ish?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir,
I'm
that's
not
probably
holding the
accurate.
exact date, okay. Thank you, ma'am.
It's, from all we know regarding this at this point, it's on schedule for its intended
Yes, sir.
occupancy date.
And the firm doing the work is not a problem. I just was curious. I had been asked a question, so I'm.
So if perhaps people would be interested in like maybe some good news.
Yes.
Please.
All right, so here I believe is some good news. Based on a lot of back and forth with SCDOT, OSF, and a lot of effort on Colonel Carlin and his staff's part. We have approval to rearrange the bus loop at Greenville High, and we'll pick up about 50 parking spaces.
Nice.
But that should be relatively good news. All right, now, before anybody goes out and, starts asking Mr. Hudson over there, or Dr. Hudson over there for a parking permit, we will have to navigate redoing that driveway, and I'm not sure, we're not absolutely sure whether that can happen before school's out, because it may disrupt the bus traffic. For you all not familiar with Greenville High, there's a parent drop-off loop in front. In the rear, behind the track and the practice field, there is a driveway that comes up to the railroad track side of Greenville High, and that is both the bus drop-off and the primary faculty parking lot. OSF, SCDOT, they do not like mixing any kind of traffic.
No.
So in this case, they have approved mixing faculty, staff, student, and bus traffic. They understand the issue we've got there. They've been very, though it took a whole lot of back and forth, but they've been very cooperative in working with us on it.
Okay.
But part of that design, because we want to make that safe as well, will involve splitting the two lanes and putting basically a median through the area where the parking spaces are, the new parking spaces. And they'll be angled in, so they're not backing straight out, they're backing out at an angle. So that will require reconfiguring that drive, which we might or might not be able to do that while school's going on. We'd have to hit a window in there in the spring. I'm not sure we could get that done in that amount of time. But we will continue work on that, but there should be no reason that that is not complete and in place for next year. And then you all know there were some contractual matters we were looking at to increase that ability to expand, and we're still working on those. So hopefully that's a positive report.
Great. Dr. Presley.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Superintendent Royster, Mr. Carlin, everyone for your continued work. 50 additional parking spaces is a step in the right direction, and I know that all of the additional work that we're doing to provide all of the other spaces that we need for our students is still underway. Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, any other, who? Oh, hello, Glenda. Ms. Glenda Morrison-Fair, you have a question?
Yes, I would
Okay.
just like to add to Dr. Presley's thank you, Dr. Royster, and whoever worked on that project. And
That originated out there with Colonel Carlin and his staff, the idea to do that, because again, it's not something that they generally accept or approve.
yeah, and I know that was a hard project for that community, so thank you so much, and you only have to tell me one time. Thank you, Linda.
You welcome, Ms. Glenda Morrison-Fair. Are there any other questions for any improvement plan projects? Hearing none, we'll move on to 5.02, sewer easement for Oakwood. There's a recommended motion from the administration to approve the sanitary sewer easement at Oakview Elementary School as presented. Do I have a maker of the motion?
Madam Chairman, I move to approve the administration's recommendation.
Is there a second? Ms. Doolin. With that being said, Dr. Royster, would you like to comment?
Simply as a reminder, you may recall that that provision was included in the sale document, that we would allow them easement to the sewer line. Now, they're not picking up any cost for their sewer line. And this is simply the easement to affect that agreement that's reflected in the sales document.
Anyone have any questions? Hearing none. All in favor, please address by raising your hand. All opposed? put your hand down. Okay, no, I'm just joking. It unanimously passed. With that being said, do we have to, agreement of purchase? Do we need to do anything with that, Dr. Royster? I don't think so.
No, just the next item would be 5.03.
Okay.
Access and parking easement for Oakview.
Okay,
The next one, 5.0.
got it, 3. All righty. Let's see. Parking easement. With that being said, there's a recommended motion from the administration to approve the request access and parking easement for Five Forks Methodist Church for Oakview Elementary School as presented. Is there a maker of the motion, Ms. Doolin?
Yes, I'll volunteer, thank you. I motion to approve the requested access and parking easement from Five Forks Methodist Church for Oakview Elementary School as presented.
Is there a second? Ms. Anne Marie? Okay, any questions? Hearing none. All in favor, please address by raising your right hand. All opposed? The motion carries. So with that being said, I will turn this back over to Dr. Stiles.
Thank you, Ms. Leventis Wells. This concludes our Committee of the Whole agenda today. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Ms. Doolin has made a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? I have a second from Ms. Leventis Wells. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The motion carries, and our meeting is adjourned at 12:20 p.m. Thank you again to our audience for joining us today, and have a great afternoon. And you have a lunch outside to pick up before you leave.